Good morning, if you're tuning in. This is In the Headlines right here on KBC Channel 1, being June the 5th, 34 days to the August polls. And Kenyans, a majority of them that took part in a survey, indicate that they want the next leadership to take care of nothing else other than the high cost of living. What do you think about what should our next leadership prioritize? Are you part of the survey, those who took part in the survey, who think the cost of living is getting out of hand? Remember, this is live and we welcome your feedback regard to what we are going to be broadcasting for you in regard to news that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, as well as just wanting to have your view in regard to what the next government should prioritize in as far as, you know, taking up leadership after the August polls that is just about 34 days away. So this poll has also made headlines in the various dailies, and we're going to be sampling to just find out what was said about whom, especially the presidential candidates and their deputy running mates. I'm Regina Manyara, and this is In the Headlines. Just to remind you that you're on Twitter on KBC Channel 1, and my Twitter handle is at Ray Manyara. Now let us start off with matters politics, where Agano Party presidential candidate David Waihiga launched his manifesto detailing his plans for the country should he ascend to power come August. In his 12-point manifesto, More said his government will focus on eliminating corruption, wastage and mismanagement of the country's resources. He further pledged to waive 50% of pay as you earn and waive all tax penalties accruing to date. That is according to him if he is elected president after the August polls.
On Monday, Agano Party presidential candidate David Waihiga launched his manifesto outlining his plan for the country if elected president during the August 9th general election.
And my running mate and I are asking, why don't you try us?
Mwaure becoming the fourth and last candidate to launch his blueprint. The Agano candidate saying that he was getting into a covenant with Kenyans to fight corruption and return all wealth illegally stashed abroad.
10 years down the line, we would want to be remembered as the presidency that slayed the dragon of corruption, wastage, mismanagement.
Mwaure saying that in order to effectively deal with corruption, his government would form a Truth and Recovery Commission to spearhead the conversation on corruption in the country and help recover all funds lost through corruption, which he estimates to be 5 billion shillings a day.
Within the first 10 days, we shall give a moratorium to anybody who is holding any money they know they got it corruptly. Public money, they got it corruptly. Also, any money illegally stashed abroad, return our money back. We shall institute what we are calling a Truth and Recovery of Stolen Money Commission, which will expose and name and shame.
Mwaure noting that in order to address the high cost of living, he would introduce unga and other food subsidies, waive 50% of payee, and waive all tax penalties accruing up to the date he is sworn in.
Actually, in our opening speech, we shall officially reduce the payee that's paid by Kenyans by 50% to enable Kenyans have some money with themselves, be able to meet their expenses, be able to feed themselves, even at the minimum to have 1 meal per day instead of 2 days.
The Agano Party manifesto has also outlined plans for effective governance at the devolved units by increasing county allocation to 40% and allocating a minimum of 50 million shillings to the lowest level of the county, the village council.
What we'll do is that it will take government, not just money, government to the lowest echelon and unit of Kenyans.
The Agano candidate questioning some of the proposals in the other presidential candidates' manifesto, terming them as lacking integrity and values.
And it is so dangerous to vote in somebody who has no regard for processes. We must be a government of processes. The other problem with Kenya has been impunity.
You want to vote for a leader that is not tainted in vices like corruption, tribalism, nepotism, adultery, greed, and abuse of power.
With the 4 presidential candidates having officially launched their manifestos, the stage is set for the August 9th general election, with Agano's David Mwaure saying that Kenya was ready to experience what a new set of leadership has to offer.
Well, that was yesterday, and while that was happening, the campaign trail is still hot. 34 days to go, as Deputy President William Ruto said that he does not regret supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta in the 2013 and 2017 general elections. He was speaking in Meru in reference to a leaked audio. The Deputy President said that he acted in the best interest of the President as his principal assistant.
The Kenya Kwanza team was in Meru County for the 3rd day. The team led by the Deputy President William Ruto traversing the county to seek support of the locals.
Mugeni kaere! Bwana Yesu asifiwe!
Speaking in Kidhirune Central Imenti, the Deputy President defended comments made in an audio clip attributed to him, saying he was acting as the principal assistant of the President after the presidential results were nullified in 2017 general election, a move he said had positive results.
Hata kama mimi nililazimisha Uhuru Kenyatta aendelee na campaign ndio tushinde uchaguzi, hakuna makosa nilifanya, ama mnasema nilifanya makosa?
The DP saying Kenya Kwanza team had a clear plan on how to change the country economy.
Juzi tuliweka manifesto yetu, tukasema priority number 1 ni kupunguza gharama ya maisha. Wananchi wengi wanahangaika, wananchi wengi wanalala njaa.
Leaders who attended the meetings defending him, saying his track record speaks for itself.
We were very clear. Our party leader William Ruto made it clear. We will eliminate cartels and state capture, and we will fight corruption.
Sisi tuko na akili nzuri ya kumchagua kiongozi ule tunataka akuridhi wewe. Asante sana, asante sana.
Now, still on matters politics, the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Deputy Presidential candidate Martha Karua has called on the Maa community to turn out in large numbers and vote for Raila Odinga next month. Karua says that Raila has the community's interests at heart and will work to ensure all the promises made during his campaigns are fulfilled if he assumes office.
The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Deputy Presidential candidate Martha Karua and the Azimio Brigade took their charm offensive to Narok County. Karua used the platform to root for a Raila presidency, saying he will effectively deal with corruption.
Ukitaka kujua ahadi ya kweli, lazima serikali ipambane na ufisadi, pesa yenu isiporwe, itumikie mahitaji yenu. Tusipopambana na ufisadi, ahadi itakuwa ni ya mdomo. Katika serikali ya baba, nitapatiwa hiyo kazi ya kupambana na wafisadi.
Karua said if elected, she will use her position as the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Cabinet Minister to lead the crusade against graft.
Uniangalie vizuri uone mimi sicheki na sichezi na kazi. Kwa hivyo wafisadi waelewe, pesa ya umma haitapatikana tena.
Leaders accompanying Karua urged voters to reject corrupt candidates and elect leaders purely on development track record.
Sasa hii timu Martha Karua, Kisa Kitui, Anyang' Nyong'o, Kivuta Kibana, Okonchela, tumekuwa pamoja kupigana vita dhidi ya wizi. Raila kwa hiki kitendo amethibitisha kwamba kweli serikali yake itapigana dhidi ya ufisadi. Government ambayo inakuja ni county government ya Azimio, na tutafanya kazi na serikali ya mama Raila Odinga. Tumesikia mashida yenu, mambo ya maji tumepanga kabisa, na tukiingia tu tunaleta maji hapa. Narenga sababu maji imejaa hapa, ni kuweka tu pipes, kuweka tangi na kulete maji kwa watu.
Their sentiments were echoed by Nairobi woman representative Esther Passaris, and former Nairobi Assembly Speaker Beatrice Elachi.
Mungu ametuzalia, Raila Amolo Odinga ametupatia Martha Karua, si ndio? Sasa huko juu tuko na mama pia. Chief Justice tuko na mama. Tunataka wamama waingie ili sasa mama ndio anajua uchungu ya kizazi.
Let us not allow again us going to have a pull and push in parliament instead because of numbers. If we want to see a new government in this country, let us give it to Raila Amolo Odinga.
They said that no one should seek position with the sole aim of setting political scores.
The character of the person is revealed, and I think this is God's way of showing us, choose wisely as Kenyans. We're a very spiritual country. It is enshrined in our constitution. Let us not mock religion. Let us be people who are upright.
Every Kenyan in this country is blessed by God, and every tribe is blessed to lead.
Corridors of Justice, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has been barred from gazetting the names of Mombasa gubernatorial candidates and the printing of the ballot papers until a case in which Mike Sonko is challenging his omission is heard and determined. The three-judge bench constituted by the Chief Justice was also barred the Wiper Democratic Movement from replacing Sonko as its gubernatorial candidate.
It's a reprieve for Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Mike Sonko after Mombasa court stopped the printing of gubernatorial ballot papers until his case is heard and determined. Sonko had moved to the court to challenge the decision by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Dispute Resolution Committee to deny him clearance to vie.
Shida iko mahali kwa sababu katiba ya Kenya huwezi apply kidhuluma. Hata mtu akwenda nyumbani unamfavor mtu mwingine so tumewachia mahakama, sitaki kwenda kuongea mambo mingi, mahakama itafanya kazi yake.
The three-judge bench consisting of Justice Olga Sawe and Onginjo and Githinji also issued conservatory orders stopping the IEBC from gazetting the names of the candidates in the Mombasa gubernatorial race. The judges further stopped the Wiper Party from nominating another candidate pending the hearing of the petition. Sonko and Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja have found themselves facing an uphill task in the quest for the gubernatorial positions.
That degree is from a university recognized in Kenya. My Lord, the returning officer confirms that those two conditions under Regulation 47 were met.
IEBC, on the other hand, is pleading with the court to throw out the petition seeking to stop clearance of Sakaja, citing its tight time frame. The court will deliver its judgment on the same on the 8th of July.
Very unclear circumstances there in regard to where Wiper stands, naming Ali Mbogo there as its candidate, yet the courts have barred IEBC from printing, and having the other names for all those aspirants eyeing that particular seat ahead of the August 9th polls. We're going to be keeping tabs on what is happening down in Mombasa County as well as other counties across board. Now, human rights activists want the government to demonstrate that it's doing its best to protect women and girls from sexual violence during the electioneering period. Mulika wa Bakaji Campaign Consortium, which brings together over 30 civil society organizations, say women and girls have suffered sexual violence in the past election and the situation must be avoided. Now, the civil society groups have called on relevant authorities to ensure perpetrators of rape and defilement get convicted to ensure justice for the victims.
Peace Brigade's International National Coordinator, Alberto Fade, said from the previous experiences there has been an increase of sexual-based violence during electioneering period, a situation that must be addressed.
When we are talking about sexual gender-based violence, we are thinking mostly about women. But that's not the case only. It is mostly the case, we have to say. But victims of rape and defilement are also men, young children, and this is an issue that deserves the attention of the entire community, and the victims deserve the support.
PBI project officer expressed the need to have a special and broader focus on the impact of sexual and gender-based violence during the electoral period.
There's a need, an increase in the need for safe houses for survivors
of sexual and gender-based violence. This is because sexual and gender-based violence tends to increase during this period.
Women rights defender hub coordinator Salina Masharia said victims of sexual-based violence require psychological support to cope with the effects of the violence subjected to them.
You've seen issues of depression, suicide emanating from the act that happened to them once upon a time. Number two, you'll also realize the perpetrators, maybe at one point, they were also violated. So we're talking about a cycle of rape and defilement.
So we are calling on the government to at least have specialized courts for sexual gender-based violence and other gender-based violence cases. This will increase convictions, because we're seeing that we're having cases as far as 207, the other elections that are still in court.
Mombasa, Kiambu, Nairobi are among areas mapped as possible electoral-related sexual violence areas, with calls to ensure prevention mechanisms are put in place.
Now, before we talk about, where we are in as far as being your brother's keeper is concerned, just a quick update in regard to that accident that took place at the Nairobi Expressway yesterday evening. Now, over 20 people sustained injuries following that road accident at the Mlolongo station. The accident involved an Embasava Sacco bus, which is said to have rammed into a private vehicle, a Prado TX, at the Mlolongo exit. Now, the victims were all occupants of the bus that was moving from Nairobi to Kitengela during the incident. The driver of the private motor vehicle, however, escaped unhurt. We're going to be keeping tabs on that. Remember, this is barely a week before a person died on the same expressway, and so much questions have been raised in regard to how we are using that particular piece of infrastructure that was just put up there to ease traffic congestion within the central business district. So far, no one died in that particular expressway, and so much has been said. If you've come across the video, there's a lot of speculation in regard to exactly what that driver of the said Matatu belonging to Embasava Sacco was up to. Some have said maybe it was brake failure, where others are speculating that they were trying not to pay at the toll. Discussing that as we sample stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Now, the National Prayer Committee is calling on Kenyans to continue praying for the country as it moves closer to the general elections. Committee Chairperson Bishop Jesse Ireri says the current political situation calls for a stronger relationship with God. Ireri says the committee will on the 20th of July convene a 3-day prayer session at the Kasarani Stadium to ask God for peaceful elections.
As the country heads to the August 9th general election, Christian faithful have been asked to fast and pray for the country. The National Prayer Committee says it will convene an intercession at the end of the month.
The meeting or the event will be in Kasarani for 3 days. That is on 28th and 29th and 30th of July. That is on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, 31st of July, we'll have the climax of the meeting that will begin at 2 p.m. All the other days will begin from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., the 3 days. But on Sunday, we are going to do it from 2 p.m., that is on 31st July.
Bishop Jesse Ireri says peace must prevail at all costs.
Everybody maintain peace, the politicians, the Kenyans, and also the media. Make sure whatever you say, whatever you do, is not going to cause any kind of tension. So be also positive in the way you report. Let everybody, young, old, politician, churchmen, non-churchmen, anybody in this country remain peaceful.
Key highlights during the 3 days will be prayer for peace in the prosperous nation, together with the healing of the economy.
But to repent, to ask God to forgive us, because we have seen in the past examples of nations, especially if you read in the Bible, when they sinned against God, what happened? And because we don't want it to happen in our nation, that's why we are calling upon the name of the Lord.
While challenging political leaders to shun selfish interests, Bishop Ireri called on Kenyans to turn up in large numbers and pray for the nation.
And we pray that, Father, you bless even the leadership.
Now we cross over to business, where Kenya has officially launched the Nairobi International Financial Center in a drive to deepen Nairobi's status as an African financial hub. The center is expected to market Kenya as the investment destination of choice for global conglomerates. Now, Head of Public Service Joseph Kenywa has said that the trade hub will serve as a center for innovation and a one-stop center for investment. The center is modeled along with Dubai and Hong Kong financial centers.
The Nairobi International Finance Center was mooted in 2008 to support the transformation of Nairobi into a financial hub. The center, which is a creation of the Vision 2030, was signed into law in 2017 but did not go into full operation due to financial and administrative delays. A board to manage the operations of the center was appointed last year, and the Treasury also published regulations to operationalize the act in December.
We will be leveraging existing verification models and brokering networks to standardize, regulate, and promote Kenya's existing production of carbon offset activities internationally. The center's partnership with Air Carbon Exchange and the Nairobi Securities Exchange will therefore be a significant milestone for Kenya.
Head of Public Service Joseph Kenywa says the center was long overdue and will serve as an African financial center, betting on innovation and research to attract investment in Kenya.
We have a robust financial sector capable of raising funds for projects, support innovation, and tap into the new investments that are coming to Africa. Developing Nairobi as an international financial center was therefore born out of our deliberations on the most effective framework that we needed to achieve this particular objective.
These areas of focus present the best growth opportunities for the continent, as well as the increasing importance of green finance and financial technology in future economic growth. I think we have covered also great milestones in the area of green financing.
The center will partner with the National Treasury, Central Bank of Kenya, Kenya Revenue Authority, and Can Invest, among other institutions, to market Kenya. A financial center is a hub with a high number of commercial banks, asset managers, insurance companies, and thriving financial markets. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani says the Nairobi Financial Center targets to attract more than 2 billion shillings by the year 2030. Last year, United Kingdom headquartered insurer Prudential became the first NIFC certified firm, with plans to move its regional headquarters to Nairobi.
Kenya and the UK can look back with pride, I think, on how much deeper our relationship has been.
Nairobi County, the city under the sun, a regional financial sector leader, and now foraging into the carbon exchange trade.
Indeed, Nairobi is an ideal investment destination there. Now, before we cross to the sporting arena, is that the rising cost of living at the time when Kenya is set to have, hold the general election, which is 34 days away. Kenyans have come out and say that this is what they want prioritized by the next government. Now, according to International Crisis Group analysts, they warn that the high cost of living crisis could cause instability. And I'd want to quote one person who participated in this particular survey, what they had to say. Well, I would suggest they open factories and they give us work. They should reduce the prices of commodities whose prices they had increased. What's your take in regard to that particular survey that has been fleshed out in various dailies as well as our website? As you ponder on that, let's talk matters sports, where the national team led by Africa Junior Championship Angela Akuchoi will take part in the Billie Jean King Tennis Tournament, set to be held in the tennis club in Sikomboje, so to speak. Well, we'll be giving you details of that and so much more. But even as we are speaking matters sports, let us look at what happened to the national basketball team. that was eliminated from the 2023 World Cup qualifiers after losing all the matches at the African qualifiers held in Alexandria, Egypt. We have further details in regard to what has been making headlines in sporting arena on our website. Now, I wish you a great viewing ahead. We're going to be speaking matters politics in not too long with my colleague Victor, who is ready with his panel on the other side of the studio. I'm Regina Manyara, and I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
Okay, right. Ask one.
Ukupenda au...
Please don't waste my time, okay?
Wewe kama unataka niambie, mimi nikupeleke pale ambapo mimi nachukua nguo zangu na wewe uchague zako.
Ni kuwa labda ni wanidharau mimi kama mke wako. You're not a weak CEO. You never have, so don't start now.
Jamaica, oh my reggae nice and it make ya. No matter what you know, can know when no safer. So me have you hold me head high, rise me people to the skies.
Hey, Mr. DJ, play that one again. Well, this a reggae music where the people them depend on. From now till the morning, vibes and never end. When you say I'm for you, yeah. Over to me, my face now grown a tree.
Champion, me a the champion. Champion, me a the champion. Bounce, hop, skip your enemy there. Swing your one from left to right, me know the saga mad then.
I was the one who killed Grandma.
That's not true, Ellen. Why would you say such a thing?
You are without question the worst human being that I know in my life, Noria. I don't want you coming anywhere near me or my family ever again.
Why are you acting this way, Noria?
What did the poor boy ever do to you? What has your sister ever done to you to make you take every opportunity to mistreat them?
You and Camilo will regret doing this to me for the rest of your lives. Especially you.
Come on,
wait,
go
hold on. I'll go to the city and call Julio.
Go on. Please try to calm down.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
I can't breathe. Everything will be okay.
I can't breathe.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Ukupenda au...
Please don't waste my time, okay?
Wewe kama unataka niambie, mimi nikupeleke pale ambapo mimi nachukua nguo zangu na wewe uchamue zako.
Ni kuwa Laban wanidharau mimi kama mke wako. You're not a weak CEO. You never have, so don't start now.
Right now, we are no longer legally married.
I'm happy to hear that.
You can't keep me in here any longer than what the judge ordered! You hear me?
I would have preferred it if he never told me, so that it would only remain to be hearsay.
And that is why we believe that. Maybe Rutilio could have abused.
Jello?
Oh, no. I can't believe this. My wife is already in a horrible mood. When she finds out about this, she'll be unbearable.
All I can see now is that I'm living in a golden cage that is choking me and killing me slowly.
Both the Kenya Kwanza Alliance and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance manifestos seek to fix the inequitable education system, but through different modalities. On the cost of education, the Azimio team, led by Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, commits to, if elected, waste not a single child by making sure every child has access to free, quality education from primary to university level. For William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagwa's Kenya Kwanza, they seek to improve the capacity of day secondary schools to guarantee access to affordable and quality education. To further reduce the cost of education, the coalition promises to introduce a special tariff for utilities for learning institutions.
Education is going to be free. By free, I mean free. Truly free.
The two manifestos are telling us that it is totally free. When your child goes to a school, the child goes to school free. So what all Kenyans should be asking and be worried about, the cost implication, where is it going to be? Because somebody has to pay for it. There is never free lunch in this world. If we talk about free education, it means somebody somewhere is paying for it.
On the school feeding program, Kenya Kwanza pledges to double the amount of money allocated to immediately raise the number of beneficiaries from 2 million to 4 million.
We're going to double to 4 million as national government, and every county that want to match, we are going to assist them to match a shilling for a shilling so that we can move the number of our children who have food in school to 8 million. That's our target.
If Raila clinches the top seat in the August 9th polls, he will facilitate the provision of one nutritionally balanced free meal per child attending the early childhood development class and lower primary. The Azimio coalition also hopes to establish a national fund to ensure that students across the country have equitable access to bursaries, with the Kenya Kwanza Alliance intending to cast their net wider to ensure inclusion of learners with disability.
We also agreed that we increase capitation of pupils living with disability by another 50% and set aside 15% of public funded bursaries set aside for pupils living with disability.
Both parties are also keen on addressing the current teacher shortage crisis.
600,000 teachers will be employed in the next 100 days when Azimio takes power. That's a big thing to chew for any economy, for any system. I don't know how the payroll will look like. I don't know how the interviews will be done. I don't know how they don't give us how they'll do it. Now, that's where these manifestos fall short. They give us what they'll do, but they don't give us the structures of how they will implement them. The one of Kenya Kwanza is actually even more convincing to any teacher who listens to what they're saying. In this way, in 2 tranches, they are saying they'll be able to employ the shortage of teachers. The shortage of teachers in this country at the moment is 116,000. That means approximately around 50,000 teachers. If they can employ 50,000 teachers in 1 year, another 50,000 teachers in another year, it looks reasonable because we have been employing around 10 to 20,000.
The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance has promised to, among others, improve the working conditions, welfare and training of teachers, with the Kenya Kwanza pledging to motivate teachers by paying for the teachers in service training and restructuring the delocalization policy to introduce special allowances for teachers working away from home. Regarding higher education, Kenya Kwanza proposes an increment in the funding for institutions of higher learning, which, according to the Deputy President William Ruto, face a huge debt burden.
Most of our universities only get maybe 50%, maybe 55% of the money they require to be able to run the programs they run. And as a result, universities have 65 billion shilling debt to NHIF, to NSSF, to pay as you earn. So, in fact, the Auditor General said the other day, all our universities are technically insolvent.
Yes, these universities need the money. You need to tell us, what do you want to do with these universities so that they can get money? Now, I can give you a good example again from Kibaki time. Kibaki came up with something called parallel programs within the universities. These kind of programs, like parallel programs, exchange programs, are the ones that build monies for colleges. We needed to hear from those manifestos telling us, what are these universities going to do to get money? We can't just be injecting money to them as taxpayers and then the money just disappears.
Kenya Kwanza also plans to establish a national skill and funding council to synchronize issuance of scholarships. On the Azimio la Umoja manifesto, Raila proposes a review of the Higher Education Loans Board lending model by expanding the limit to reflect the cost of living in Kenya, as well as removing the interest rates accrued and Commission Reference Bureau listing of the graduates. A key pillar of the education agenda is the promotion of technical training. Raila proposes to, among others, increase enrollment in technical and vocational education and training institutions, as well as provide adequate funding to mid-level colleges and TVET institutions to offer quality education. But if Ruto wins the election, he vows to construct fully equipped technical training and vocational education training institutions in the remaining 52 constituencies within the first 2 years of his presidency.
You know, TVET education is a very specialized kind of education. If you are taking education to wherever, Homa Bay, Huisero, wherever, and you want to take there a college, a TVET, you need people qualified who are able to teach. If it's masonry, if it's plumber, if it is whatever, you need the teachers, the know-how, the people who know it. And that's what they needed to tell us first, how they're going to train the people who know carpentry. I like what the Azimio now says, that they're going to come up with a special way to grade the people, the Juakali sector, for example. Now, you see, a person in Juakali sector knows how to work with wood or with metal. That person needs a good certificate, so that with that certificate, he can be employed to become a teacher in a TVET.
Comparing how the manifestos address the rigidity of the education system, the Kenya Kwanza administration seeks to review the current exam-based system of academic progression, while a Raila Odinga presidency promises to initiate the recognition of prior learning certification program to recognize workers with skills that do not necessarily fall within the formal education system.
We cannot really do away with exams. The thing should be, or we should be being told, is measurements, tests and measurements. That's the right word. Remove the word exam, but bring in the word tests and measurements. So these measurements are able to measure every level of every person, every student who comes to school. We are not really examining them, because exam comes with pass and failure. But tests come with, have you reached the level or have you not reached the level? So that's what our politicians need to be talking about. But they are already addressing it. When we hear things like CBC in the Azimio manifesto, when we hear the deputy president in the Kenya Kwanza also talking about reducing exams, they're already addressing it because exams have locked out many of our people.
And to support research and innovation, Ruto has committed to increase funding to research and development institutions from the current 0.8% to 2% of the GDP, while Raila promises to establish a research and design fund for students who develop innovative solutions, products and services. Education remains a key pillar in the economic revolution, which the political players hope to steer if elected on the 9th of August. Whose approach to this critical sector will augur well with the interest of Kenyans? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell, and the time is now. Good morning and welcome to People and Politics. This is KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Lowe with only 34 days to go to the polls. Now, I have got two young people in studio with me. We're going to unpack the two manifestos, or rather, yes, the two. I have got Ascon Kamili, who is Azimio la Umoja Youth Presidential Team. There you have him. Welcome to the show, as well as Sheila Sifuna, UDA Youth Presidential Team. Lady and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning. And let me start with you, Sheila, now that you're sitting next to me. You must be so busy as a youth leader of UDA.
Definitely yes, because we are at the last lap of getting the vote. So we're just there going to remind Kenyans to selling our manifesto and telling them what it is, unpacking it to them based on their different areas. So yeah, we are quite busy transversing the country.
How is a day like? Every day, at what time of the day does your day start?
It depends. Sometimes 4:30. Like most of the campaign we do in Nyanza region. Kisii, we start at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, and it can go as late as 11 midnight.
It must be a very tough moment.
Yeah.
That must be the same with you, Ascon.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a bit busy this time, considering we only have 34 days. And these 34 days are very packed with a lot of activities.
Yeah.
I remember last week we were in Kakamega, Migori, Kisumu and Nyamira counties, back to back from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and with very little time to relax. So you only get probably just one day to ease, the much work that you're doing. And today we are done with this. We're moving to Nyeri the whole day. So it's a bit difficult, but we're up to task. That's why we are young people. We have the energy.
Okay, let me get this right. You belong to different political formations. Are you friends?
Yeah, we are friends, we talk. In fact, when we were coming in, somebody was asking if it's the first time we're meeting, and he was very surprised that
no, it wasn't.
We've met severally before. Yeah, we are young people, and our idea as young people is, politics is not about enmity. It's not about fighting. It's not about hating one another. We must know that we could belong to different political camps, but also just advance the ideas of building Kenya and making Kenya better.
Sheila, do youth really understand the issue of tribalism? Now that you've said that you're friends and the two big political parties, it's not the first time you're meeting, as you said.
Yeah.
When you meet youth out there, what is their language?
By and large, majority of them talk the youth language, because you see where we stand and where even my colleague Ascon we come from. We say we are conspiring as young people to prepare the next, to be the next people to take over and lead our people in the right direction. So as young people, majority of them have learned that politics is not about tribal, which tribe you come from, which camp you're supporting, but it's about ideas and ideals. However, there's a small section that still needs to just understand, and I think this is the right forum to just let them know that we are not enemies. We are just here. We are political competitors, and after August 9th, we sit down together and plan the way forward. So, yeah, just a call out to the young people out there.
Okay.
Don't hate on each other because of politics.
I'm quite interested to understand how people communicate. Sheila, that was a hard tackle below the belt today. Tomorrow go slow. Is that really what happens? The youth in this particular county, you hit it so hard. Tomorrow go slow. What is your agenda? What is that?
While it's important for young people to know that politics is not about becoming pretty much all the time acrimonious with each other. It's also a very important thing for them to know that politics is very important.
Yes.
And that there's a very fine line between politics and politics as a real thing and politics as a game. The real thing in politics is that it determines what you do every day in your life. It determines your job, it determines your education, it determines everything. So on the one hand, when we want to view politics as just a game, we must also view politics as a very important aspect of our lives, and that they must participate in it, knowing very well that it's not just a game, but it's something that determines pretty much everything in your life.
Absolutely. Sheila, when you talk of politics as a reality and politics is just a game, there's this aspect of women in politics, and let's just say it as it is. Women are still getting it so hard to crack that barrier. Why?
I think from the society we are in, it's largely patriarchal. However, I feel like most parties, especially my party like UDA, there's that opportunity that has given young women and women in general, because if you start even at the Secretary General, she's a lady.
Yes.
Moving down, most of the governance structures have women incorporated. So I just want to mention and say, it depends on you as a person. If you take up the opportunity that these parties are giving us, these institutions that are mentoring us to be leaders in our capacities, it's just for you to take up that role, know how you maneuver yourself in that particular area, and carry yourself with decorum. Because the other problem that we face as women in politics is you cannot be a man in politics. You have to be just a woman in politics. However, you know the value that you bring to the table at any particular time. So I feel like there's good progress in terms of women being at the table, but we still have a long way to go.
Well, I did know you'd send us into the manifesto so soon.
Yes.
Well, I thought this was a brief introduction, but as you have put it, I think the space of women in our politics right now is becoming even thinner within the UDA side and even wider on our side. We have had opportunities of talking about how women need to be involved in our politics. We have had opportunities of giving them giving them chances to speak when really concretely they're not getting the opportunity to be heard when it matters. We have an opportunity in the last few months. We have had an opportunity in the last few months where the presidential candidates were given a chance to select their running mates. We have 4 presidential candidates on the ballot today. Only one pair failed to give a chance to the women of this country. That speaks to the fact that there is one part of our politics that does not believe in giving a chance to the people, to the women of this country. It also speaks to the question of the young women. So if at all they cannot give a chance to the women of this country, what then would be the space of the young women within Kenya Kwanza? I'm very concerned about that, but I know I will give a chance to Sheila to respond to that later.
But then
I know Sheila can resonate with that statement.
There's this thing about having cosmetic appearance to just show that you're gender compliant.
Absolutely.
And there's that in the background, in the machinery, even in the commitment. Like we've seen our presidential candidate, Mr. William Ruto, committing to give half of the cabinet to women. We've not seen such a commitment in the Azimio side, despite the fact that they have a woman on the ballot. Again, you see, it's a matter of optics. You see, they feel like maybe if you put a woman there, we'll get the woman vote. But you see, the women of Kenya are very alive to the fact that we are voting ideas.
But someone would argue that already Kenya, the other side of Azimio have already hit the ground running, giving an example, picking as a running mate, but the other side of UDA have not met the part of the bargain.
And also, I think it's very ironical to put William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza on the same statement with commitment. We have had several chances where William Ruto has talked about the things he would wish to do for this country. We have had William Ruto talk about stadiums. We have had William Ruto talk about laptops. This has passed without any action. Now we have had women sign several charters. We have had women been given a chance to have a discussion and a conversation with presidential candidates before. It is only this opportunity that Raila Odinga has taken a chance, and has taken a bold step to give women a chance on the table. I'm very certain that Martha Karua sitting with Raila Odinga on the table will argue the case of women when it comes to appointments in government. Will argue the case of the two-third gender rule much better when they are the periphery and they cannot be given a chance to be heard.
Kenya Kwanza will also have their
we are not sure. Now we have Rigathi Gachagua who goes. We have Rigathi Gachagua who on a sunroof calls Martha Karua Yule Mama. That tells you, the condescending.
Allow me to take a break at that particular point. I'll just take a quick look on what's happening on what we have on local dailies. Let me start with the Daily Nation. On the front page, polls. Battle of the IT gurus. Battle of the IT gurus. We have got Azimio flag bearer Raila Odinga and his Kenya Kwanza counterpart William Ruto are banking on information technology gurus to safeguard their votes. We have got Mr. Mr. Davis Chirichir, the Chief Jubilee Party agent who also represented President Uhuru Kenyatta at the National Tallying Center in 2017 elections, leading Ruto's wing, while George Njoroge, that's the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the East African Data Handlers, heading the Odinga camp. That's what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation. And still on there, I made you president, Ruto towns Uhuru. That is some of the sentiments were made yesterday. Quick one on the front page of the People Daily. IEBC clears 16,000 people to vie. Premium tiers loading for 14,000 candidates who will be, defeated during the last month's election. Quickly on the front page of the Standard poll, Karua's big impact. She has 49%, Rigathi Gachagua 30%. And finally, the Star. Ruto, I did 3 meetings daily as Uhuru slept. Deputy President said that he woke up early and aggressively campaigned for Kenyatta as the head of state was sleeping. That is just a sneak peek on what you have on our local dailies. You can take a copy of your choice and look at the stories in depth. All right, back to our discussion in studio. We have got 2 manifestos already in place, and they're in public domain. Let me start with you, Sheila. What makes your manifesto unique?
Our manifesto is unique because, number one...
That is the UDA manifesto,
yes,
right?
Yeah, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto.
Kenya Kwanza, right.
Yes, it is unique because, number one, it was crafted by Kenyans, millions of Kenyans, through different mini sessions that we've had with Kenyans in the Mashinani. And from the beginning, we had them at regional levels, where we could get the former regions, where we had meetings with them, asking them what are their priority areas, because you're going to this election, not telling Wananchi what we will do for them, but asking them and wanting to know what would you like for this government to do for you. Then thereafter, we scaled it down to counties, and we did each and every county in the whole country, and we got ideas. And then after that, we went to sectors. We did education, healthcare, youth, women, and we just got to understand what they want. And all this was merged together by a team of experts to get us what we have as the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. That is the number one and the most unique thing about our manifesto. And the second one is, our manifesto is very detailed. If you pick that manifesto for any leader who is committed to progress, committed to making Kenya a better place, if you pick that manifesto, you can implement it without even having to go and refer to whichever other notes, because it has case examples of how you can be able to do this. For example, it will come and tell you how to create many jobs using very little capital. Because the example where we see the garment industry in Kitui that created more than 600 jobs at a capital of 168 million, yet another company, another industry, which is the gun factory industry, that created only 100 jobs at a capital of 4 billion. You see, all these things can let you know where would you want to put your priority. Are you putting your priority in areas that create jobs to many thousands of Kenyans? Or are you creating industry that are capital intensive, that are only creating jobs for the few select? So as where I stand is the Kenya Kwanza manifesto is very elaborate.
Right.
It's from the people of Kenya, by the people of Kenya. Yeah, and
for the people of Kenya and by the people of Kenya.
Yes.
Ascon, is that the same with Azimio la Umoja?
I'd say pretty much, but I'm also concerned by the simplistic way in which Kenya Kwanza views the challenges that affect Kenyans, particularly young Kenyans. You'll see the manner in which they dismiss big companies. And we can trace this from the sentiments by Rigathi Gachagua few months ago, where he proposed that companies like Safaricom would go down and be, and they'd have investments directed to small companies. That is not bad. The issue would be there's no point of creating a rift between the big companies and MSMEs. Our manifesto is very intentional. We have looked at the clear challenges that affect each and every segment of the economy and given solutions to each and every particular problem. We have talked about the young people of this country. We know that we know the question of innovation has been overlooked severally and over time. And our manifesto proposes a clear way in which we intend to invest in innovation done by young people. Our manifesto talks about the question of taxes and licenses. We know that so many young people are hurt by the fact that when they begin their businesses, they're not able to sustain the business businesses because of the licenses that are very exorbitant, and also because of the taxes levied on them by the KRA. Our presidential candidate has proposed a 7-year tax holiday for each and every business that begins as a young business or maybe by a young person. We have the question of women. We have spoken about, you know, the specific areas that touch the lives of women economically and even socially. We know women have been disadvantaged over a very long time, and our presidential candidate has spoken about this severally. He has proposed in the manner in which women are going to be included in our government, the manner in which they're going to participate meaningfully. We are talking about the question of talent and sports. We know that, you know, Kenya today, we are talking about the national basketball team, which has performed very dismally out there. There is a reason why the national basketball team has performed dismally, because the government has not been very intentional on the manner in which our sports can be advanced going forward. We have our national team pretty much sent out, and you know, we don't have a team right now. We have had a Kenya team where Dennis Oliech was doing very well, Mariga was doing very well, and all the other players. So the government that we are going to put in place is going to be very intentional with each and every aspect of our economy. And what is important right now is not about how detailed, it's not about how big. We have had the Jubilee Manifesto, you know, explained to us by William Ruto himself, then as a subordinate of President Uhuru Kenyatta. The most important thing is the practicability of the propositions that have been given in these manifestos. You know, the practicability on our side is as clear as the Right Honorable Raila Odinga proposes that we're going to have a 6,000 stipend for social protection.
I will ask that. The 6,000 shillings because...
But then a question.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot my colleague Gascon has been mentioning and saying for women there's a plan. But then what is the plan? You know, if you ask what is exactly that thing that you will do for women of this country, if you talk about innovation, he's mentioned innovation. What is their manifesto speaking to the innovation? You know, there's nothing specific. It's just a lot of ambiguity and big words. And he has just mentioned something that just fascinated me and said, we have simplified our document. Yes, we've simplified because the problems that Kenyans face just need simple solutions. They're not geometrical or some graphical solutions that they need. They just need simple solutions that a leader who's committed to offer solutions to them will actually deliver. So it's not a jargon.
Well, I think that was a misunderstanding, or maybe she's misconstruing that statement to advance an argument. My idea is not that they have simplified their manifesto. Even our manifesto is very simplified, but they have looked at the issues very simplistically, looking at issues as though they're not very important, as though you can just wake up and, you know, pick a child somewhere, take them to school, and
you can do that.
We are talking about, we have a question of children going to school. We are talking about, we have a question of children going to school and people getting meaningful jobs afterwards. When you talk about a child going to school and finishing and being handed over a wheelbarrow to just begin any business, that's not what we are talking about.
But what is meaningful employment?
No, that's a big
what is meaningful?
Because at the end of the day,
some jobs
the education
useless.
should be proportionate to the job that you're going to get out there. And a majority of this population, 70%, a majority of them, you meet them on a daily basis. The only thing they ask for is, we want jobs.
And what is meaningful job?
So you know, we have, you know, my concern has been, Kenya Kwanza has even made us apologize for being educated. They've made us apologize for working hard. You know, by this slogan that kazi ni kazi, they want to make everything okay. That even if you are a learned lecturer or a learned PhD or a learned medic, you can leave your job as a medic and go and push a cart in the streets, and that's okay. That's not what we want for our country. No, let me tell you.
I don't think that should be. Sheila, take it away, yes, please.
Okay, maybe that's why I think ASCON should really focus on explaining their manifesto, and I think that is where Azimio mostly loses it, because they come and try to explain our manifesto, yet we are the ones who understand it better. No, I have just to pick it up. Just 1 minute. For example, when you talk about kazi ni kazi, you know, whatever job that is out there. For example, right now, when we were doing the SGR, there was a shortage of people who can do, what are they called? Plumbing, you know, the basic jobs that would actually, and you see, these jobs are not bad jobs, because if you look in the first world countries, these are very well-paying jobs, and we can make that for our country. However, if you're saying you're apologizing for being learned, okay, what is you being learned helping this community with, when out of the 800,000 being churned in the job market annually, only 50,000 get into the corporate market, and around 150,000 get into the informal, meaning there's a chunk of almost 600,000 young people who don't get anything to do. So what has their education actually offered them up to there? And that's why the government of Kenya Kwanza is saying, whatever
Okay, let me ask you this now.
We are there to support you.
You are on your feet,
yes.
quote unquote, on the floor. What is the position of the youth in your manifesto as the Kenya Kwanza?
The position of our youth, the youth will be the biggest beneficiary of our manifesto. Why am I saying this? Number one, in job creation, we are the people who are mostly affected. Personally, I'm a graduate.
Right.
Just to get a job in this country is a tall order. The best you can do is just go start a small business or a company as you wait for whatever other opportunity comes up. And if you ask many young people, are you actually doing the job you studied for in campus? Most of the people will say no. Whatever they studied in campus and whatever they're doing right now, it's totally different. And when you ask them, they're saying, we have to make a living regardless of whatever we are doing. And then for the young people, the presidential candidate, His Excellency William Ruto, committed to give the young people a ministry, a standalone ministry for young people. This is just a ministry to front the issues of young people, to make sure we are mainstreamed. Like even across other ministries, we have a representation. There's someone who can be able to come and say, hey, in this ministry or in this department, why can't we have young people being at the table? And then also he has committed to give us young people sit in cabinets. Yeah, those are commitments that are tangible, because once we have someone sitting at the table, they can make our voices be heard where it matters, where decision is being done, where resources are being shared. And I feel like young people will benefit the most for job creation.
When you have got a ministry dedicated to the youth, that's just a limited number who will actually gain from this.
Maybe just to clarify,
70% of voters and the youth.
Let me clarify.
How will they benefit?
Let me clarify. And that is the perception everyone is having. Everyone thinks like once we have a ministry of youth, we are just curtailing just a few employees to the youth issues. The issue here is mainstreaming, and the ministry, its work is to make sure youth issues, youth concerns are at the front of any discussion. It's not necessarily just for the sake of young people to get jobs, because if it's creating jobs, it's very few jobs.
All right.
However, they will defend many young people in schools. For example, there's that concern where we are saying Wi-Fi to be available in all shopping centers and stuff like that. Once we've committed that way, that Ministry of Youth is there to make sure whatever that was promised for the young people is actually coming to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the position of the youth in the manifesto of Azimio la Umoja.
At the very outset, let me begin by saying that our party leader or our presidential candidate has been very explicit about the manner in which he intends to solve the youth problem. We know that this country is buckled under the weight of unemployment. Big time, the problem that the youth face in this country is purely unemployment. So the party leader has spoken about the fact that if we want to convince the entire country that pumping people into the public service or the civil service will solve their problems and challenges, that would be a very wrong direction to take. But also he says that we have to get a cocktail or a medley of seeking employment in the public service and ensuring that we generate employment from even the informal sector. And there's several avenues within which our party leader or our presidential candidate has spoken about this. First and foremost, he says that, or for instance right now, if you were to go to an informal settlement as Kibera or Dandora or these other places, you'll find so many youths in garages and in the small business areas who have technical skills. What we want to do is do something called RPL, or recognition of prior learning, meaning that we know that you're a technician or you're a mason or you're a mechanic. The reason why you cannot get meaningful job or meaningful employment even with your skills is because nobody recognizes your knowledge or nobody recognizes that you have some skill that need to be utilized. First and foremost, what we're going to do is to recognize that by issuing certificates to these people and being recognized by the government.
What will be the turnaround time? Within 5 years to implement this agenda for the youth? What will be the turnaround time?
What happens in Kenya? In fact, I was having a discussion with one of our CSS sometimes back, and he said that Kenya does not lack in papers. Kenya has all the policies. The issue is the goodwill to implement these things. So what we need as a country is a leadership that goes out there to ensure that what is on paper, these propositions, how much practicable are these and who is going to implement this? Our party leader or a presidential candidate is very clear on this, that within a number of time, within a number of days, he should have ensured that this has been implemented. The RPL thing is just having a policy in the Ministry of Education to ensure that all persons with prior learning or skills are certified. And that should not even take more than a week or two, or even 3. a stroke of the pen and everything is okay. So those are some of the things that we're proposing.
That
Secondly,
sounds easier said than done, because you can imagine after 2 weeks.
well, so that's why we are. No. That's why we are requesting.
In 2 weeks' time.
Right. But you have not given me a chance to explain the fact that, as I was saying, you know, we have reduced the conversation about employment to as basic as we just need to invest some 100 billion somewhere and get people buying carts and mkokotenis and doing business. That is not what we are discussing. We are discussing about tangible ways in which we can create employment. We are discussing about ensuring that each and every county has a product and manufacturing goes on. That's why our manifesto is founded on the concept of manufacturing. When China in 1978 was reviewing their model of economy, they had to invest on technical skills and manufacturing, and that is the direction and the tangent we are going. We are taking the direction of manufacturing to ensure that we have industries across the country that can employ people at whatever level and whatever cadre. We're going to have graduates in these manufacturing setups. We're going to have even those with technical skills in these setups. We are talking about industrial zones across the country. We have had this in Mombasa. We have had this in Lamu. We have had this in industrial area. You know the number of people in this country who are employed in industrial area. But be that as it may, we are not limiting people to getting blue-collar jobs. We are limiting people. We are not limiting people to being employed by companies. We are also giving them a chance to do their businesses and support these businesses.
Because when I ask about the issue of turnaround time, you talked about 2 weeks and the implementation. The question is the implementation. When you talk of the current regime, an elaborate manifesto was given to the public. But to this end, somebody would look back and say, some were not implemented, and now the regime is getting out of office right now.
No wonder we talk about practicability.
Exactly.
Right? But before you, just a statement before she... I would like her to add it to this. I would like her to add it to this. I would like her to add it.
Hold on to that.
Because it's very important, I'm going to lose it.
No, just hold. Sheila, go ahead. Dealing with the youth is...
No, but let me tell you, these people... No, she talked about Wi-Fi. You know, she talked about Wi-Fi in the marketplaces, and I'm so concerned of this. I'm so concerned of this. I'm so concerned about this.
She will be on our next, please.
All right.
After the studio, please. Sheila, go ahead.
So, you see, he has really gone around until the question is almost getting resolved somewhere. Yeah. So, basically, in terms of implementation, the previous government, what I can say is, you learned from
the current one, right?
The current one.
Okay, sorry, I've already...
because she's in opposition, I think so. All right.
Come on.
I'm in first 9. Anyway, the current government, I think where, personally, on a personal opinion, I feel like where they failed was they gave Kenyans what they want to do for Kenyans. They didn't come and ask Kenyans, you guys, what do you want us to do for you? And I think that is a very big thing that we have actually learned. And when developing the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, I think it was at the top, because when you say we will do this in this number of days, and yet you're not sure if the Kenyans mashinani actually want that thing to be done for them. But for example, you have a meeting with teachers and you tell teachers, what is your problem? They come and tell you there's a shortage of teachers in wherever, and this is and this. There's no curriculum development for ourselves as teachers when you're in the industry. Then what can we do for you? Then they suggest that for every teacher who is is employed currently, they should be able to advance their education at the cost of government. Like government will actually fund for a teacher to move from a P1 teacher to a degree teacher, so that their salary can also increase. You see, those are suggestions that were not there in the current government.
Yes.
We just said we'll help the teachers. But then that is exactly what I am having an issue with Azimio's manifesto, because it's copying or it's borrowing exactly from Uhuru's government. And those are the things that actually made a lot of stalling happen in this current government. However, if you look on this other side, we are saying, you guys have a shortage of at least 116,000 teachers in the country, as is right now. We are thinking of dividing this into 2, because we can't hire them all in the first financial year. It will be absurd. So we will not commit and say we will not have 116 teachers being employed on the first financial year. We will split this into 2. Get the first batch in the first financial year, get the second batch in the second financial year. To fail on such will be, and it can't even be imagined, because you've actually planned and you have a budget. But there's something that Kenyans have to know is our manifesto has a budget outline already, has a detailed budget outline for each category.
Right.
Maybe a question again, maybe to manufacturing. There's something he mentioned and said. Their manifesto, which is Azimio's manifesto, is looking into manufacturing. But what areas of manufacturing are they going to focus on?
I'll explain.
Yeah, because, for example, in Kenya Kwanza, we're explaining and saying we want to invest in labor-intensive manufacturing. Labor-intensive means there's a lot of job creation more than just, the roads are good, the SGR is good,
yes.
the expressway is awesome. However, you come and ask yourself, the amount of money that has been invested in that particular area and the amount of jobs it has created, was it a priority area? Or could we have taken this money somewhere else, ensure there's money in the pockets of young people and many of in the pockets of Kenyans, before we now go ahead and choose which project to do? So as Kenya Kwanza, the concern is we are giving priority to manufacturing that create jobs. And when you create jobs, the biggest beneficiaries will be young people. It will be women. The community will be able to grow. And just to, maybe just a small one, just to explain on the concept of supporting the small businesses. You see, as is, 19 million of the population is a working population. However, just 3 million are into this corporate industry, the formal sector. Like the rest of 901 million are in the informal sector. So there's a 16 million in SMEs, and some are not even employed in the first place. So we are saying, if in a job you're making 500 shillings in a day, and unga is 220 shillings. It's even, some places it's even as high as to 50 shillings. Oil is to 80 in some places. So it means all your profit is being eaten down in a single shopping in one evening. We are saying we want to give you more capital, expand your business, ensure that if you're making 500 right now, you are able to make 1,000 bob. And as while you're doing that, this other side of the economy, we are putting subsidy into agriculture. We are putting a subsidy into fertilizer so that the cost of living also goes down. So the money you make in a day has gone up. The economy is a bit affordable. So there's a lot of money that remains for you to even develop yourself as a person. So it's a whole plan.
I would want to advance this discussion and ask you, when you have a meeting with the youth out there and you look into their faces, what is the main concern when you tie that to the manifesto of Azimio la Umoja?
Well, I've had discussions with young people for a very long time now, stemming from the days of the BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative, and even up to date, we still continue to have conversations with them. And the biggest thing, or what comes out as the most important thing for the young people of this country, is employment. Nobody wants to know about who's going to be prime minister, who's going to be minister. And of course, they'll be happy to see Ascon as a minister or something, but they are more interested in how employment can be created for them. And, you know, it is very unfortunate right now that you'd go to the University of Nairobi and most of the graduates there would right now rely entirely on online writing to earn a living. When in real sense somebody took over 5 years to undertake a course in electrical engineering or an engineering course, they did not do that just to earn a living in whatever form or to go and sit in some shop somewhere and get some money. That was not the intention. The intention was how to get meaningful employment. And this takes me back to the practicability of these propositions within our manifestos. And I think that is what should be the issue. How colorful, how beautiful the cosmetics around it is nothing material. What is material is the practicability and how those who are advancing these ideas have behaved before. We are talking about a manifesto within the Kenya Kwanza that proposes free Wi-Fi in marketplaces and all other settings they're talking about. When we have evidence that in the initial stages, the same presidential candidate had spoken about issuing Wi-Fi free of charge to everybody in Kenya. To date, that has never happened, or that has not happened. You know, we are talking about on our side that we believe that manufacturing can cure this challenge of unemployment. And even on the same stretch, we're talking about innovation and giving a chance to SMEs, building them at the very particular level.
I'm told we're almost running out of time. Let me just give Sheila, just hold it. Sheila, when you have a meeting with the youth, they come in numbers, but there is one aspect that we cannot run away from. Umetuachia nini? Okay, tumekuja, tumemaliza. What next? When you look into their faces, what do you see?
Actually, just before the discussion began, I was just mentioning to Ascon and telling him our campaign is almost on a zero budget. Why am I saying this? For example, just the other day, on Wednesday, I was in Kehancha in Migori County. And you see these young people, there are people who have ideas. They know what they exactly want. You know, I just paused and wondered. I just paused and wondered, has it always been like this? Because maybe I'm just new to this game and maybe they've been saying these things all along and now no one has been taking action. However, I feel like people are more enlightened, especially young people. They know exactly what they want. Last time we were in Vanga, in Lunga Lunga, and they're telling you, we want this and this particular issues. And the biggest issue, just as Ascon has mentioned, and it cuts across, it's employment. It's how do we get money in our pockets. I remember a young man in Lunga Lunga just mentioned and says he didn't want to get married because if he cannot feed himself, how will he be able to feed the family?
That's a good point.
Very reasonable. Yeah, it is
right.
very reasonable, but it just tells you how young people are struggling across, our manifestos aside, everything aside, young people in this country are really struggling.
The issue of education, Ascon, Kenyans are educated. Let's just give it to the education sector and the government with the 100% transition. Kenyans have gone to school, but the education system that that Honorable Raila Odinga is talking about, the free education, just explain to that first-time mother or father who is saying that finally it's going to be free. How free is going to be free?
Well, that's a very important question you're asking, because I think that forms part of the basis of our manifesto. The fact that we view education as a very important aspect. In fact, we talk about education as being the only equalizer, and it has given a chance to so many people. We discussed this education thing as a country in 2002 for the very first time when we proposed that we're going to have free primary education. Well, there were so many naysayers, including those within the other side of the political divide. They didn't believe it was possible, and Raila Odinga ran with this because he's the one who spearheaded the campaign in 2002, and he committed that the education of the primary school would be free. Today we are proposing, and we are committing to Kenyans, that we are going to have free primary education, free secondary education, and free university education.
Where is the money?
Well, that is a detail, but I'm still explaining.
Sheila has asked my question.
That is a detail.
I don't know who is the interviewer.
Let me say today.
Go ahead.
That will bring you back to the practicability of a manifesto. You will remember that a few years ago, when Jubilee was coming into power, the very same presidential candidate of Kenya Kwanza said that they're going to have free secondary school education. Up to date, we've not seen that. So what we're talking about is there has been these propositions before. The willingness to implement this is what is important. And that's why we should go into the character of this, the character in the history of these presidential candidates. We have Raila Odinga, who was initially proposed free primary education and effected it through the NAC government. We have Raila Odinga, who was committed. Well, he was not the president, but he steered the campaigns and he played a very important role in this. You get the point? We have a presidential candidate who has proposed that we are going to have highways across this country. He got a lot of opposition. You remember people demonstrating across Nairobi through the bypasses. Right now, Kenyans are enjoying bypasses all over Nairobi, and even in Eldoret, in some parts of Nyanza and Kisumu, all over the country, even in the coast. These are things that require an intention to ensure that they're executed, because every plan has to get opposition. Just like right now, when we talk about free primary education, free secondary school education, and free university education with teachers employed across the country, you can imagine that we have so many teachers across the country who are not employed, and they're very well qualified. When every day on the newspapers you'll see adverts of schools that do not have enough teachers, this is what our manifesto is proposing.
You've not answered Sheila's question. Where will the money come from?
Well, this has been a question that has been asked severally, and our principal has been very clear about it, that what happens in Kenya is that there is a lot of money in Kenya, but this money goes into the wrong hands. We know we have a lot of debts, but where is the money? The money goes into the pockets of a few in this country.
Thank you.
What we need
Sheila,
to do,
have you been answered?
No. What we need to do, just wait, let me build on this. What we need to do is to limit the much pilferage that happens in this country, the loss of public funds, the much money that goes into people's pockets. What we can do is very simple. When you close these tabs and the money is retained in the government will get a chance to implement all its ideas and all its policies. That is why Kenya Kwanza is not talking about corruption, because they know the weight of corruption sits on their neck.
Give it to Sheila.
No, but you see, it's just a bit sad that my colleague doesn't want to understand simple explanations of English. Why I'm saying this is because in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and the 3 reasons why our presidential candidate is running for office, he said he's going to institutionalize and make, what are they called? Judiciary, for example. Judiciary will get its fund. There's a judiciary fund that is already in the constitution that they need to get. Yes, to remain independent. You see, if you, whoever pays the piper calls the tune. So if they keep on having to go to the president to beg for money all the time, we want to do this, we want to do this, it will mean if for them to give out justice, they'll have to check who is this particular person. Are you innocent or guilty? based on the side of the political divide you're on. Because as is currently, you're guilty or innocent based on who you're supporting. And if you cross to the other side, you become the opposite. If you're innocent, you'll become guilty once you cross over.
Right.
So that is what His Excellency William Ruto is saying. We want to give judiciary independence so that it can do its mandate without having to check on the side. Is the president okay? Is the president happy? You know, those are the things we want. And on its own, as is, we'll fight corruption. The other thing, for example, is to give the police service an accounting officer. For the longest time, we've not given the police service an accounting officer, meaning they cannot be given an independent budget to run their operations. What does that mean? The DCI will actually be waiting for a call from the president.
But I believe there's some institutions you cannot audit.
And that's why we are saying...
It becomes difficult to audit.
Yeah, but then again, give them money to be able to do their operations so that, you see, for example, you're a police officer, you have your own budget. You don't have to go and beg the president or whoever other quarter for money to do your operations. Then it will make you independent enough to propagate justice the best way you know. And that's how corruption will be dealt with fair and square. Because, for example, from their side, they're saying they're fighting corruptions. What is the methodology that you use to fight corruption? You see, most of these things are very political language. Yeah. It's cosmetic for the rallies, to excite emotion. But then, how exactly are you going to do this?
As you answer that, because we're running out of time, you'll just tie to this question. Is there hope for this country, more so to the youth, as you answer that?
Thank you. Now, you know, on the question of corruption, I get very offended most of the time when politicians, generally across the country, and we have had this to an extent in Azimio and also within UDA, when we reduce very important conversations into politics, it saddens me, you know, because you'll realize that it's very prominent in the UDA side that when a politician is accused of something, the first thing they'll do is, you know, somebody is fighting me. There's a politician who is fighting me. It's a very wrong way of looking at things. We have institutions in this country. Today we have a question about, we are talking about a question about degrees right now in this country. And it cuts across. Instead of just presenting yourself to the institution that has been charged with the mandate to look at these papers. You want to go to court, talk about how the president wants to kill your political ambitions, and this is very classical of William Ruto. You'll talk about Rigathi Gachagua, he's been arrested for, you know, engaging in corruption. Instead of allowing the judiciary to look into this matter to the full length, when he has not even been denied a chance to contest in an election, he still wants to explain to us how the government wants to finish him. We should allow our institutions, which have run over a period of time. We have the Office of the Auditor General, who gave a very, you know, comprehensive statement and even criticized the government, right? We should give these people a chance to operate independently. How? Once we have given them that chance, then we'll get the results we are looking for. And also as a student of law, the question of separation of powers, there is independence and interdependence. Okay. There's a very fine line between these two. At the very outset, when you talk about an independent institution, that does not mean that this institution should be fully independent as though they are standing alone. Okay. No, wait.
But there's a provision.
There's a reason why the judiciary. There's a reason why
it's in the constitution.
It's
that
okay.
You saw.
But there's a reason why the judiciary and the Chief Justice must be able to work together with the legislature, that is Parliament, and able to work together with the executive.
My director says that we are running out of time. In 5 seconds, is there hope for the future?
There is big hope for this country. I know there's a lot of disillusionment, particularly among the young people. There's a feeling that we have been left alone, but I want to commit to them that there's a lot that has been clearly outlined by our presidential candidate, that's Raila Amolo Odinga, on the manner in which he wishes to help the young people and address their plight. Therefore, there is hope in this country, and I believe, considering our conversations with so many young people, that on the 9th of August, so many of them are going to turn out to vote to determine the future.
Thank you, Sheila. Some of the youth that you meet out there, perhaps you've met even your former primary school mates, you are secondary, and the people you interact with on a daily basis. When you look at them, can you tell them with a lot of confidence that there is hope for them in this country?
Yes, there's a lot of hope. And when we have these conversations, when it's not political, like a time like this, and Ascon can agree to this, we actually have very serious conversation as young people, and it's like we're having a conspiracy on how to actually help our generation to be better leaders, to be better in governance, to be better citizens, because there's also that responsibility that falls on you as a citizen. So that where there's something that the government will do for you, but what will you do for your country on the other extreme end. So where I sit is there's a lot of hope in this country. Young people should not give up. It is darkest before dawn, and I feel like our dawn is very near. And the Kenya Kwanza government is offering a lot of space for us to thrive. So as young people, I'll just call upon us not to give up. Do not lose hope. There's a lot of maybe just to mention on mental health issues. There's a lot of mental health issues because someone feels they're at the corner. Some of us are here smiling and really pushing this agenda, but there's a lot we struggle with as young people because we live in this country. So it doesn't mean that when you're facing an issue, you have to relent back, go into drugs and all these things. So there's a lot of hope for young people, and we should not give up.
Allow me to end it at that particular point, but promise me that these are discussions that we need to continue because we've not talked about industrialization, we've not talked about in-depth.
No, I'm looking forward to another invitation.
Exactly. We've not talked about the issue.
I've not talked about corruption and UDA and Kenya Kwanza.
All right.
And the young people in the 70, 80 years old.
Okay.
It's just amazing.
The future belongs to us, and we believe that outside there, whenever you're meeting these particular people, keep on encouraging them. And I like from the moment you started that you are friends. So youth, do not be enemies. All right, that's the right time for us to stop this discussion at that particular point, but they've promised that they'll come back at the earliest opportunity. My name is Victor Lowe. We are taking a short break, but when we come back, we'll be crossing over to Radio Taifa. We have got Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna talking about matters economy. Again, it's an extended version of this. He'll be having that discussion with Rashid Momkondo and Wajuma Chose. So let's take a break, and when we come back, straight to Radio Taifa.
How about we get married and live here together?
I'll marry you.
I can see that you're still in love with the prince. Why would you offer to marry the king?
Echo?
If you betray me, then all of our vows are void. I'll leave you and you won't see me again.
Kukupenda au
Please don't waste my time, okay?
Wewe kama unataka niambie, mimi nikupeleke pale ambapo mimi nachukua nguo zangu na wewe uchague zako.
ni kuwa labda ni wanidharau mimi kama mke wako? You're not a weak CEO. You never have, so don't start now.
Na barabara kabisa mtazamaji, kibao kitamu sana Lesu Wanyika jamani, shemegi Agnes. Marhaba mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1 mahali popote ulipo, ni furaha iliyoje asubuhi hii tunapojiunga pamoja kwenye mchakato mzima wa kipindi Zinga kinachokujia vile pia kupitia kwenye kipindi Good Morning Kenya kwenye runinga yako na enzi ya KBC Channel 1. Upande wetu ni Radio Taifa, sauti ni ya Mkenya, kipindi Zinga Gumzo Pevo. Mimi naitwa Rashid Mamkondo na mwenzangu
msikilizaji, ikiwa zimekatika dakika 8 baada ya saa 2, ni siku ya 7 ama ni siku ya 5 ya mwezi wa 7 mwaka 2022, na tunafurahi ya kwamba umeamka salama salamini, na ndio maana umepata uwezo wa kujumuika nasi ndani ya KBC Radio Taifa, na vile vile utakuwa unatupata moja kwa moja kupitia runinga yetu ya Channel 1, KBC Channel 1, ambapo hashtag leo zitakuwa zinatembea mbili kama kawaida yetu ya siku ya Jumanne, #Zinga, #Good Morning Kenya. Na leo tunafurahi ya kwamba tutakuwa tunazungumzia maswala ambayo yamekuwa yakizungumziwa na kila mmoja wetu. Bei. Kuna meme inaitwa meme ama ni meme ile meme. Sasa kuna jamaa ameonekana kule supermarket anatembea na trolley. Trolley imejaa. Sasa watu wakawa wanauliza, jambo sasa nani amepatia huyu, ametoa wapi milioni 1? Na sasa hiyo basi ameweka unga mifuko 2, unga wa ngano mifuko 2 na sukari, lakini sasa anaitwa milionea kwa sababu inawezekana vipi bwana ameingia supermarket na anabeba trolley? Unajua siku hizi ukiingia supermarket unaingia mwenyewe, unabeba kwa mkono wako, unaenda kulipia, story inaishi hapo. Lakini sasa watu unapata kwamba mtu anatembea na trolley ndani ya supermarket. Who is this millionaire? Imekuwa ni swali ambalo watu wengi wanauliza msikilizaji, na ni kwa sababu gharama ya maisha imepanda. Na leo hii tunataka kuzungumza jinsi ambavyo tunaweza kudhibiti hali ngumu ya maisha hapa, na tutakuwa tunamuuliza maswali mengi tu mgeni wetu wa leo msikilizaji, ambaye muda si mrefu Rashid atakuwa anakupatia mwongozo.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, kama alivyosema mwenzangu Chozi la Almasi, hata hiyo mimi jana mimi nyingine niliona zile pikipiki maarufu za kuweza kusindikiza watu maarufu kote ulimwenguni, zinamsindikiza jamaa ambaye amebeba unga wa ngano, geleni ya mafuta ya uto na unga wa sima. Bila kupoteza nukta sekunde wala dakika mtazamaji, ni furaha iliyoje kumkaribisha studioni asubuhi ya leo msemaji wa serikali Kanali mstaafu Cyrus Oguna katika swala zima hili. Je, hadi kufikia sasa bwana Oguna, mikakati ya serikali iko vipi angalau kuweza kumsaidia mwananchi na gharama ya maisha? Kwanza karibu sana.
Asante sana ndugu Rashid, dada Chozi la Almasi. Nasema ni asante kunikaribisha kwenye kituo na kuongelea mada hii muhimu sana kwa nchi yetu na kwa wananchi wetu kwa ujumla. Kwa kweli hali ya maisha imekuwa ni ngumu kwa wananchi wote kwa ujumla, na ni kwa sababu bei za bidhaa kweli zimepanda. Kila kitu kimekuwa ni nzito kwa watu, na ukiangazia vile umesema pale ni kwamba baadhi ya vitu ambavyo kwa kweli kwa sasa ni gharama sana. Ukiangalia bei ya unga imepanda, mafuta kupikia bei imepanda, unga wa ngano bei imepanda, mafuta ya taa imepanda, nauli pia imepanda, kila kitu kimepanda, ambapo ni kitu ambacho kwa kweli inaleta maisha inakuwa ni mazito sana kwa Mkenya, kila Mkenya. Na kama serikali ni kitu ambacho kwa kweli hatungelipenda liendelee, ni kitu ambacho tunaweka juhudi na mikakati ya kuweza kudhibiti ili kwamba hali ya maisha izidi kushuke kidogo, ili Mkenya apate afueni, aweze kuweka chakula kwa meza. Kuna miradi na mikakati mingi ambazo serikali imezindua ama kwa sasa hivi inatekeleza ili kuweza kufanya kwamba bei ya bidhaa hizi zishuke. Lakini kabla sijasema ni zipi, nafikiri pia ni kitu kizuri kuweza kuangazia hali hii imetokana na jambo lipi, ili kwamba wananchi waweze kuelewa kwa jumla. Ni kitu ambacho kwa kweli sio Kenya peke yake. Naomba watu wafahamu hiyo kwamba sio sisi peke. Nadhani kwamba unaposoma sema kwamba kuna nchi watu serikali inaomba msaada ili ilipe nini wafanyikazi wake. Nadhani ni Ghana amesema, umenielewa? Inamaanisha kwamba sio kitu ambacho sisi kama Kenya inatukumba peke yetu. Inakumba nchi zote za ulimwengu. Hata Marekani kwa mara ya kwanza watu wanalalamika. Juzi nchi jirani yetu hapa upande wa kusini, rais mwenyewe alisimama akaambia watu mtarajie hali ya maisha kuwa ngumu, vitu vitapanda. Rais mwenyewe akasema, sio hivi juzi lakini nafikiri kama miezi miwili imepita, Kule chini Afrika Kusini watu wameandamana kwa sababu kwamba hali ya maisha imekuwa ni ngumu zaidi. Nadhani kile ambacho nasema hapa ni kwamba sio sisi peke yetu, lakini serikali yetu kwa kweli ni serikali ambayo ina utu, inapenda watu, na nikasema kwamba haiwezi achilia hali iwe hivyo ili ijirekebishe yenyewe. Ni kwamba iweke mikakati ya kuweza kurekebisha ama kupunguza gharama ya maisha kwa mwananchi. Sababu ya kimsingi ya hali hii ni sababu zipi? Ya kwanza ambacho kimechangia sana, sote tunakumbuka kwamba tumekuwa na janga la corona. Janga la corona, japo watu wanadhani kwamba imeisha, itakuwa imepungua ndio, lakini madhara yake bado yapo. Madhara yake sio kwamba tu mtu labda amekuwa mgonjwa akapoteza uhai, lakini madhara yake ni kwamba kipindi ambacho kilikuwa kimekithiri sana ni kwamba hata na wakulima hawangeweza kuuza bidhaa zao, lakini pia hawangeweza kupata pembejeo ya kuweza kutumia kwa mashamba yao. Kwamba hayo yakachangia sana kwamba mazao kutoka shambani yakapungua. Inamaanisha kwamba nyakati mazao yamepungua na pia bidhaa sokoni pia yatafanya nini? Yatapungua. So yakishapungua bei itafanya nini? Itapanda juu. Hiyo ni moja. Ya pili iliyochangia ambacho labda mtakumbuka ni kwamba tumekuwa na nzige kwa kipindi kirefu sana, karibu miaka 2. Nzige pia ina madhara, kama mnyama ana madhara mengi sana, kwamba anakula mimea na pia inamaanisha kwamba mazao yanafanya nini? Yanapungua. Ya tatu ni kwamba hata sasa hivi bado kuna janga la nini? Laendelea janga la tuko na ukame mkali sana ambao unaendelea. Kuna zaidi ya kaunti 23 kwa sasa hivi ambazo wananchi wa pale wanapewa msaada wa chakula na serikali. Inamaanisha kwamba hizo kaunti 23 mazao hayapo kwa sasa hivi. Kwa hivyo mambo haya yanachangia sana. Lakini ya 4 ya kimsingi pia ni kwamba kuna tatizo la kiusalama baina nchi mbili za muhimu sana, nchi ya Ukraine na Russia. Nadhani kwamba watu watasema kwamba inakuaje hali Ukraine na Russia ni nchi ambazo ziko mbali sana na sisi. Lakini ukiangazia kwamba Russia ni baadhi ya nchi ambazo zinatoa mafuta ya magari kwa wingi sana. Nyakati ambazo Russia kwa sasa hivi imepewa vikwazo, inamaanisha kwamba hawawezi wakauza mafuta yao katika soko la kimataifa. Kwa hivyo nchi zile ambazo zinatoa mafuta itabidi wapandishe gharama ya nini? Bei ya mafuta sasa, kwa sababu Russia ambayo imekuwa ikitoa mafuta kwa sasa hivi haitoi. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha kwamba kuna watu wanataka mafuta ikiwa hali mafuta ni ndogo. Kwa hivyo bei itapanda. Kwa hivyo ndio unaona kwamba hata na bei ya tunasema barrel moja ya mafuta bei imepanda kwa sasa hivi. Ya tatu hapo ni kwamba Russia na Ukraine imekuwa ni nchi ambazo wanatupatia ngano kwa wingi sana. Maana sisi uwezo wetu wa kuzalisha ngano hapa tunazalisha nasema ni kwa metric ton 34,000. 34,000 kwa mwaka. Mahitaji yetu ya ngano ni 1,808. Kwa hivyo tunazalisha 34,000 peke yake, mahitaji yetu ni 1,808.
Yako juu zaidi. Nao asilimia kubwa inatoka Russia na Ukraine ya ngano. Umeelewa? Sasa wale wako na matatizo ya kiusalama. Inamaanisha kwamba ngano hatuwezi pata kutoka kule kwa sasa hivi. Hivi kwamba ile ngano iko kidogo, bei itafanya nini? Itapanda. Bila shaka hiyo ni kitu ambacho ni cha wazi tu. Jambo nyingine ni kwamba mafuta ya kupikia, ile tunasema raw material ama malighafi ya kutengeneza mafuta ya kupikia, tunapata kutoka Indonesia na Malaysia. Nchi hizo mbili haziko vitani moja kwa moja, lakini Russia ilipoacha kutoa mafuta yake pamoja na Ukraine, basi na Indonesia pia ikasema hawatauza mafuta nje. Maana yake ni matumizi ya wapi? Ya ndani kwa ndani, ili kwamba waweze kushughulikia watu wao. Hasa inamaanisha kwamba katika soko la kimataifa mafuta yamepungua sana. Kwa hivyo ile mafuta yapo, hii ni ya kupikia, sio ya gari. Mafuta ya kupikia ni chache kwa soko la kimataifa, kwa hivyo bei lazima ifanye nini? Ipande tena. Jambo zuri ni kwamba Indonesia kwa sasa imekubali kuuza tena nje. Kwa hivyo hali inazidi kuwa sawa kwa sasa hivi. Japo kuwa hapa ndani bado tunaona bado kuna uzito, lakini mambo yatakuja kuwa sawa. Now hizi zote zinachangia
katika ile hali tuko kwa sasa. Nadhani 4 ama 5 ni kwamba mambo haya yote, kumbuka kila kitu tunanunua tukitumia dola. Nyakati ambazo bei ya mafuta imepanda na pia nguvu ya dola inapanda. Nguvu ya dola ikipanda na sisi pia shilingi inafanya nini? Inashuka. Kwa hivyo iwapo unanunua kitu kutoka nchi za nje na tunanunua tukitumia dola, na hali nguvu ya dola imepanda, nguvu ya shilingi imeshuka kidogo, inamaanisha kwamba iwapo unanunua kwa mfano jana ama juzi ama mwezi jana ukanunua tuseme mafuta ya magari, tuseme baro moja kanunua kwa shilingi tuseme shilingi 3,000 mwezi jana. Iwapo nguvu ya dola imepanda, basi itakuwa labda shilingi sasa 5,000 kwa ile idadi ya kile kiwango cha mafuta. Ikifika hapa, basi inamaanisha kwamba bei yake itafanya nini? Itapanda. Kwa hivyo vitu hivi vinachangia mambo haya tunayoona kwa sasa. Ni kitu ambacho sio cha kulaumu kwa serikali ama mtu yeyote. Nitasema hivyo kwa sababu kuna baadhi ya watu wengi, hasa wanasiasa, wametembea mtaani, wametembea kwenye kampeni zao wakisema kwamba ni serikali yenye kulaumiwa. Nimepatia mfano nchi nyingi za ulimwengu. Nchi zingine kwa kweli hata watu wameandamana. Na wanaeleza kwamba sio sisi kama serikali, kitu ambacho kiko nje ya uwezo wa serikali. Sisi kama serikali tunafanya nini ili kuweza kudhibiti mambo haya? Jambo la kwanza serikali imefanya ni kutoa ushuru yote ya kuingiza mahindi kutoka nje ya nchi hii, hasa katika nchi za COMESA. COMESA ni katika ule muungano wa nchi ambazo zinafanya biashara pamoja ya Afrika hapa, hasa Afrika Mashariki na Afrika ya Kusini. Inamaanisha kwamba iwapo wewe ni mfanyabiashara, uko na uhuru wa kuweza kwenda Uganda na kuleta mahindi, mradi tu utaratibu ufuatwe, na hivyo katika kiwango kizuri, isiwe na aflatoxin. Kwa sasa hivi nadhani kwamba tumepokea mahindi karibu gunia milioni 3 kwa sasa. Inapozidi kuendelea hivyo, bei ya unga bila shaka yote itashuka. Umeelewa? Na hiyo kutoa ushuru pembeni hivi kwamba wafanyabiashara waweze kuingiza mahindi hapa nchini ni kwa magunia milioni 6 peke yake. Sio kiholela. Ni kwa sababu tunapoenda mbele mwezi wa 8 hapo ni kwamba wakulima wetu wataanza kuvuna mahindi. Na tungelipenda wavune nyakati ambazo soko tayari limejaa na mahindi kutoka wapi? Kutoka nje. Inamaanisha kwamba tutakuwa tunafanya biashara ambayo haina faida yote. Kwa hivyo ni magunia 600 tu kwa kipindi cha miezi 2. Mwezi huu wa 7 na mwezi wa 8. Kisha itakomeshwa. Ili kwamba wakulima wetu waweze kuleta mahindi yao kwa soko ili kwamba bei zidi kushuka. Hiyo naomba nieleze tu, mahindi hapo awali kuna ile tunasema import duty. Hiyo ilikuwa imetolewa hapo awali na gazette notice, tamko la serikali ya tarehe 2 mwezi wa 5 hapo, ama tarehe 14 mwezi wa 5 ilikuwa imetolewa. Lakini ikawa kuna zile charges za pale kwa mpaka unapoingiza mahindi. Sasa hizo charges ndio juzi waziri wa kilimo alipokuwa na manga akatoa hizo charges zote. Inamaanisha kwamba iwapo yeyote angependa kuingiza mahindi, ni kwamba enda Uganda, chukua mahindi uje nayo Kenya. Enda Tanzania, chukua mahindi, leta Kenya. Nenda Zambia, chukua mahindi, leta Kenya. Mradi tu utaratibu wa kuingiza bidhaa kutoka nchi nyingine ufuatwe bila malipo yote kwa sasa. Kwa hivyo kwa mwezi mmoja tumepokea sasa karibu gunia milioni 3. Kumbuka tumebakisha tena ngapi? Milioni 3 peke yake ili dirisha hilo lifungwe. Hiyo ni moja. Ya pili ni kwamba kama nchi tunakumbuka kwamba wakulima wetu waweze kutoa mazao mengi, ni kwamba kuna ruzuku serikali ilitoa kwa wakulima ili kwamba watu kupata mbolea kwa bei nafuu, waweze kupata mbegu kwa bei nafuu. Na serikali ilikuwa imetoa bilioni 5.8 kwa wakulima ili waweze kupata afueni kwa kupata mbolea pamoja na kupata mbegu ili kwamba mazao yawe mengi zaidi lakini kwa bei nafuu. Kwa hivyo tunatarajia kwamba mwezi wa 8 unapofika mazao yatakuwa ni mengi, lakini pia yatakuwa kwa bei ya chini ya kuweza kupatia mwananchi wa kawaida afueni. Nadhani mengi sikupa nitaje yote. Ama
inawezekana makadi tukiendelea yatajileta yenyewe.
Lakini kabla hujaendelea mbele, kuna swali muhimu ningependa kukuuliza. Mwezi Disemba, tukisalia na swala la kawi, waziri wa kawi Bi Monica Juma aliwapatia Wakenya matumaini kwamba huenda gharama ya bei ya umeme ikashuka. Lakini Bwana Oguna, leo ni jambo la kusikitisha. Mimi na Mkenya mwingine tunanunua 200 tokens na tunapata unit 10 ama 12. Mambo iko wapi?
Bei ya umeme ni baadhi ya zile mikakati za serikali. Unakumbuka kwamba juzi tu, nadhani kama mwezi jana tarehe 14, serikali ilitoa zaidi ya shilingi bilioni 20 ya kuweza kusaidia kupunguza bei ya gharama ya mafuta. Manake hata umeme kuzalisha unatumia mafuta kuzalisha umeme. Umeelewa? Kwa nyakati ambazo bei ya mafuta imepanda, lakini pia umeme utafanya nini? Utapanda tu bei ya umeme. Na unapoangazia mambo ya umeme na pamoja na mafuta kwa jumla, kwa sababu ya ruzuku hii ambayo serikali ilitoa, nchi hii katika kanda hii ndio nchi ambayo iko na bei nafuu ya mafuta pamoja na ya umeme. Kwa sababu ya kuweza kufanya nini? Kupena ruzuku hiyo kwa wananchi. Kama haingelikuwepo, bei ya umeme ingekuwa juu zaidi. Umeelewa? Kwa hivyo ni vitu vinachangia, na pamoja na kwamba Monica Juma alikuwa amesema hivyo, lakini kumbuka kuna mambo nimetaja ambayo yanafanyika nje ya serikali, nje ya nchi. Kuzalisha umeme unahitaji mafuta ili uweze kuzalisha umeme. Kwa hivyo bei na mafuta unapozidi kupanda, gharama hiyo itakuja kwa mteja ambao ni wewe na mimi. Ndio.
Labda unajua kuna maumivu ambayo yanazidi kushuhudiwa majumbani wakati huo mfumuko wa bei ukiwa unaendelea. Na kadri ya kipindi cha miaka kama 5 hivi tumefika kwenye 7.9 kutoka 7.1. Na mara ya mwisho mfumuko wa bei kuvuka mpaka ilikuwa ni mwaka Agosti mwaka 2017, ambapo labda haya majanga ya usalama, COVID, ukame, nzige hayakuwepo mwaka 2017. Lakini akawa amepanda na ikawa imefikia 8.04. Labda tunaelekea hapa baada ya kudhibiti haya majanga ambayo tunayo sasa hivi.
Hapana. Kwa sababu nadhani kwamba ni mahali tumefikia ndio itakuwa mwisho kabisa ya bei kufumuka, bei kupanda juu. Maana mikakati hii serikali imeweka na kuhakikisha kwamba bei itabaki mahali ilivyo. Itakianza kushuka, itazidi kushuka tu. Kwa sasa hivi nimesema kufikia mwezi wa 8, nyakati ambazo mavuno yamepatikana kutoka kwa wakulima wetu pamoja na mahindi tunayoleta hapa nchini, bei ya bidhaa ikiwa unga na bidhaa zingine zitazidi kushuka. Tayari tumeona kwamba hata na bei ya gesi ya kupikia imeanza kushuka kutoka kwa kilogram 13. Hapo awali ilikuwa ni 3,300, sasa imeshuka 3,200, itazidi kushuka.
Unajua kwa nini nauliza hivyo? Ni kwa sababu mwaka 2017 kulikuwa na uchaguzi, masuala ya uchaguzi, na ndio maana bei zilikuwa zimepanda. Na sasa hivi pia tunaelekea katika kipindi hiki cha uchaguzi. Sasa je, tutarudi hapa? Ambacho
labda ni kitu ambacho kinafanywa uchunguzi zaidi, ni kwamba kuna wakulima ambao kwa kweli wanaweka bidhaa wakitarajia, tuseme mazao, wakitarajia kwamba soko lifanya nini? Liwe nzuri zaidi ili wauze kwa bei ya juu sana. Umenielewa? Ile tunasema hoarding. Lakini sasa tunaeleza kwamba tunapoleta mahindi kama serikali, alafu pia mwezi wa 8 wengine wanapovuna mahindi, hata wanapoweka mahindi kuficha ili kwamba bei ipande juu, haitakuwa inawasaidia kwa sababu tayari kutakuwa na soko, mahindi kwa soko. Kwa hivyo hiyo unavyosema ni kweli, sikatai, lakini pia ni kwa sababu kuna wakulima ni walagai ambao wanaficha mahindi ili kwamba bei ipande. Ndio.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, hii ni KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ni ya Mkenya, kushirikiana na runinga ya kitaifa KBC Channel 1, kipindi ni Good Morning Kenya na Zinga. Wakati huo kumbuka KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya, mita bendi kuu Nairobi, Kajiado 92.9 FM, sauti ya Mkenya, mji mkuu wa pili nchini Kenya Mombasa na viunga vyake 101.8 FM, Kisumu 104.5 FM, Nakuru 104.1. Studioni tuko naye msemaji wa serikali, kanali mstaafu Cyrus Oguna, tukiweza kuzungumzia mikakati ya serikali kuboresha gharama ya maisha. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo, mwenzangu ni Chozi la Almasi. Nikirudi kwako Bwana Oguna, kabla kwenda mapumzikoni mwendo wa 2:30 hivi, wadau na Wakenya mbalimbali wametoa kilio chao bei ya unga ipunguzwe. Lakini hivi juzi imepunguzwa kwa shilingi 2 bwana Oguna.
Nadhani kwamba kila ambacho lazima pia tufahamu ni kwamba soko yetu ni soko huru.
Ndio.
Wala kule kupunguzwa kwa shilingi 2 kwa kweli sio tuseme sio juhudi za serikali hiyo. Ni kitu ambacho mimi sielewi nani alifanya hivyo kwa sababu sio serikali. Lakini tukubali kwamba tuko kwa soko huru, soko ambayo kila mmoja kuna uwezo na uhuru wa kuleta bidhaa zake. Kwa hivyo bei za bidhaa inatokana na nini? Na wingi wa bidhaa kwa soko ama uchache wa bidhaa kwa soko. Nyakati ambazo bidhaa zimekuwa nyingi, basi na bei itashuka. Bidhaa zikiwa chache, bei itapanda. Manake ile soko yetu sio soko ambayo serikali ina tusema ile controlled market, sio hiyo. Ni kwamba soko huru, yeyote analeta bidhaa kauza, yeyote anaweza toa bidhaa zake sokoni. Kwa hivyo nyakati ambazo bidhaa ni nyingi kwa soko, basi na bei itashuka. Ndio kile ambacho tunazidi kuona, na bei itazidi kushuka mahindi hadi ambapo mwananchi wa kawaida atapata afueni.
Na kuna swala hapa linajitokeza bwana Oguna kwamba serikali imesema ilitoa mabilioni ya fedha kwa wauzaji wa mafuta ili bei shuke. Lakini bado bei ndo yazidi. Niko hapo kwa mafuta bwana Oguna.
Ni kweli vile umesema. Kile ambacho naomba tu wananchi waelewe ni kwamba bila hiyo pesa serikali kwa imetoa, nimesema serikali kwa ujumla mwaka huu imetoa shilingi bilioni 66. Lakini kwa kuweza kusaidia mwananchi ili kwamba kama pesa hiyo haingelitolewa, bei ya mafuta ingekuwa juu zaidi. Naomba muelewe hivyo. Na ndio sababu kwamba nimesema kwa kanda hii, nchi ambayo bei ya mafuta iko chini zaidi ni hii nchi yetu. Ukienda hapa kwa jirani hapa
Uganda
iko juu zaidi yetu hapa. Ukienda hapa kusini, bei ni juu sana. Ukienda kaskazini vile vile, ukienda mashariki vile vile, hata unaenda Rwanda vile vile. Kwa hivyo kwa kanda hii tuseme, tukiongea lugha ya diplomasia tunasema hii East African Community countries, ni nchi hii peke yake ambayo bei ya mafuta iko chini zaidi. Na ni kwa sababu gani? Hiyo hela serikali itoa kuweza kukushwa na mwananchi hivi kwamba asije kapata bei ya mafuta ikiwa kubwa sana. Ndio.
Na msikilizaji, basi tutakuwa tunachukua pumziko fupi. Ikiwa hivi sasa ni 2:30 saa za Afrika Mashariki. Unaendelea kuitazama runinga ya KBC Channel 1 na vile vile unaendelea kusikiliza KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya. Kipindi hewani ni Zinga, tukiwa naye msemaji wa serikali ndugu Kanali mstaafu Cyrus Oguna.
Na msikilizaji, na tukiwa tunaenda mapumziko mafupi, tutakaporudi kumbuka kwamba amesema kwamba kuna tatizo la usalama, kuna tatizo la COVID, ukame na nzige. Tutaliongezea na la makatel katika wakati huu wa uchaguzi. Je, inakuwa namna gani? Atakuwa anatujibu, na vile vile kukuruhusu wewe kuuliza swali kupitia 0700176699. Hii ni Zinga.
Alright msikilizaji, kwa sasa tunachukua mapumziko mafupi, lakini nakuacha na kibao kitambo chake Mwalimu Thomas Wesonga, wananchi tuna jukumu, na hata sisi Zinga tuna jukumu. Ndiposa msemaji wa serikali yuko ndani ya studio.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Ukupenda au... Please don't waste my time, okay?
Wewe kama wataka niambie, mimi nikupeleke pale ambapo mimi nachukua nguo zangu na wewe uchague zako.
ni kuwa Laban wanidharau mimi kama mke wako.
You're not a weak CEO. You never have, so don't start now.
Mwalimu Thomas Wesonga, kibao kitamu sana cha kizalendo, anasema wananchi tuna jukumu. Na pia sisi hapa ndani ya studio, mimi Chozi na msemaji wa serikali kanali mstaafu Cyrus Oguna, tuna jukumu. Wapiga picha wetu pia ndani ya studio wana jukumu, waelezi wetu Ben Kamuti, Mato Njeru, Fadhili, nyote mna jukumu. Karibu kwenye awamu ya pili ya mpango mzima wa Zinga ndani ya KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya na Good Morning Kenya kwenye KBC Channel 1. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo.
Naam msikilizaji, asante sana kwa uwepo wako. Kumbuka kwamba unatupata kupitia Twitter @Mwajumachozi, @Mwamkondo, @Radio Taifa, @Good Morning Kenya, ama @KBC Channel 1. Hashtag ni Good Morning Kenya, hashtag ni Zinga msikilizaji. Na ndani ya studio kama alivyotangulia kusema mwenzetu ni kwamba tuko na msemaji wa serikali mwenye mstaafu kanali Cyrus Oguna, ambaye sasa hivi tunamkanga kidogo na mafuta. Na swali ambalo nitalitanguliza bwana Cyrus.
Naam.
Mwaka 2012 mwezi Machi.
Naam.
Tulitangaza ya kwamba kuna mafuta Turkana.
Yes.
Tuachia.
Kwa kweli hatukutangaza tu, ni hali ni kwa kweli mafuta ipo. Kila Turkana. Nadhani swali ni kwamba inakuwaje tunaleta mafuta kutoka nje na hali
mafuta tunayo na bei iko juu.
Hapa na bei yanazidi kuwa juu. Nadhani nitalijibu swali hilo kwa kupatia mfano pia. Nchi ya 6 kwa kuzalisha mafuta ulimwenguni ni nchi ya Nigeria. Nchi ya 6 ulimwengu mzima kuzalisha mafuta ni nchi ya Nigeria. Bei ya mafuta Nigeria inazidi bei ya mafuta hapa Kenya. Hata nyakati fulani haipatikani.
Hata hivi kwa jana alikuwa anaangalia taarifa, kuna uhaba mkubwa wa mafuta kule Nigeria.
Na ni ndio nchi ya 6 ya kuzalisha mafuta. Na pia pamoja na kwamba mafuta hayapatikani, lakini ikipatikana bei iko juu zaidi yetu hapa.
Shida nini?
Shida ni nini? Swali nzuri. Mimi nakufahamisha hivyo mwanzo, kama sisi hapa mafuta tunayozalisha hapa nchi ni kwamba haiwezi katosheleza kujenga kiwanda ya kuweza kusindika hiyo mafuta. Manake itakuwa ni gharama kubwa sana. Iwapo nchi jirani zote zingelikuwa na uwezo wa kuleta mafuta ama ya kuzalisha mafuta, tungelikuwa na kiwanda hapa. Kwa hivyo mafuta tunayopata kwa nchi hii yetu kule Turkana ni mafuta ambayo hayatoshelezi kuweza kuwa na kiwanda. Ni unaona hata nchi yetu nchi jirani ya Uganda wako na mafuta mengi, lakini wanapeleka nje kule kufanya nini? Kwa kusindikwa na kuwa processed, alafu kisha inarudi. Umeelewa? Maana itakuwa ni gharama kubwa sana. Kwa hivyo kile tunapata sisi ni mafuta kiasi kidogo tu ya kuweza
yanatoka pale Turkana,
kutoka Turkana
yanapelekwa nje,
alafu kisha yanaregeshwa kama process. Hatuwezi kuwa na kiwanda hapa, maana itakuwa ni gharama kubwa sana. Umenielewa? Hasa ndio tatizo. Umenielewa? Na nakupatia mfano pia, nchi jirani wako mafuta mengi kutushinda, lakini wanaipeleka nje. Umenielewa? Ili kwamba iweze kuwa process kule nje, ndio kisha ikaregeshwa kama diesel, kama petrol, kama mafuta kupikia, na kama pia mafuta taa.
Bwana Ogura, kuna swali linaniwasha sana. Linaniwasha sana.
Niweza tu. Mbona tuko na muda?
Unajua mwananchi wa Kenya, katiba ana haki ya kuweza kupata arifa muhimu kutoka kwa serikali yake.
Kabisa.
Na wewe ni Mswahili, na Waswahili siku zote wasemwa lisemwalo
lipo,
na kama halipo
laja.
Historia ya kubinafsishwa kwa bandari ni vipi?
Mimi nadhani kwamba waziri alikuwa ametoa taarifa kuhusu bandari, na sio Mombasa tu, hata na bandari ya Kisumu. Umenielewa? Na kajieleza vizuri sana. Sitarudia alichosema, lakini nitapeana mfano pia, na ili nielimishe umma. Kuna nchi moja inaitwa Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire kwa sasa. Hiyo nchi, bandari ya nchi hiyo ndio bandari namba 2 kwa Afrika mzima, kwa kuwa ina kazi nyingi sana. Hiyo bandari ya Ivory Coast. Hiyo bandari kwa sasa hivi wale wanafanya kazi pale sio watu wa serikali. Ni company imepewa kazi ile, alafu serikali inapokea hela kutoka kwa ile kazi. Ni makubaliano. Maana inamaanisha kwamba usalama wote ni juu yenu, kila kitu ni juu yenu. Lakini kwa kila mwaka ama kwa kila mwezi mnapokea kiwango fulani, sisi tunapokea kiwango fulani. Kwa sasa hivi ndio tusema kitega uchumi kikubwa sana cha Ivory Coast, hiyo bandari. Kwa hivyo kile ambacho lazima tuelewe, mimi labda kabla sijasema hivyo, nichukue pia mfano wa expressway hii ambao imemalizika. Ni barabara nzuri kweli. Nadhani kwamba tena kwa kanda hii ya Afrika hii peke yake tu, kanda hii yetu Afrika Mashariki na Kati, ni hii ya kwanza. Lakini haikujengwa na hela yetu kama nchi. Ilijengwa na hela ya mwekezaji ambaye anakuja hapa, anawekeza hiyo hela, anatengeneza miradi. Serikali, ile hela serikali ingetumia kwa mradi kama huo, inaenda kwa shughuli zingine. Shughuli kama ujenzi wa barabara sehemu zingine, mambo ya dawa kwa hospitali, kujenga hospitali, shule, ile tunasema 100% kwa shule. Ni hela kama hizo ambazo zingekuwa kwa expressway, hasa zinapelekwa sehemu nyingine, kwa sababu kuna mwekezaji ambaye amekuja na hela yake anawekeza hapo. Bandari hiyo nimekupatia mfano wa Ivory Coast, pia ni katika hali kama hiyo. Inamaanisha kwamba zile expenses zote za kurani bandari, huyo mwekezaji anafanya nini? Anachukua jukumu hilo. Sasa yeye, watu wakiwa wagonjwa ni juu yake. Ni njia nzuri sana ya kuweza kuendesha miradi kama hiyo. Sisemi ndio itakuwa bandari ya Mombasa, nasema rudi kwa taarifa ya waziri, utapata kuelewa alivyosema. Lakini pia na mfano tu kwamba lazima kama nchi tukubali kwamba nchi zote zinaelekea katika hali kama hiyo, ili kwamba serikali isijiingize ndani kwa vitu kama hivyo. Iache mtu afanye biashara yake katika kiwango kama hicho, lakini serikali ishughulikie kupeana huduma kwa wananchi. Huduma ya shule, huduma ya maji, huduma ya umeme, huduma ya usalama, huduma ya matibabu na mambo mengine.
Kabla tujampatia msikilizaji fursa ya kuuliza maswali kupitia 0700176699, kuna swali ambalo nilikuwa nataka kuliuliza kabla hatuja kwenda kwenye mapumziko, kwamba inasemekana kuna cartel ambao wanatumia wakati huu kwamba tuko karibu kuingia katika muda wa uchaguzi kuweka bidhaa zao ili bei iongezeke wapate pesa. Je, ukweli uko wapi?
Utakuwepo tu. Ni kitu ambacho kimekwepo, hata sio hata uchaguzi peke yake. Nakumbuka hapo awali, hata tunapokaribia kusoma ile tunaita budget, makadirio ya serikali, kuna watu walikuwa wanaficha bidhaa wakiwa na ile ina fikra kwamba bei itapanda juu, alafu kisha ndio watoe bidhaa katika bei mpya. Umeona, imekuepo, itakuepo tu, manake cartels hawataisha wote. Kuna watu walagai, nimesema hapo awali, ambao wananunua bidhaa kisha wanafanya nini? Wanaficha hivi kwamba bei ikipanda juu waweza kuregesha kwa soko. Lakini tunasema hivi, wale ambao makatelo wako katika hii sekta ya kilimo, hasa kwa sekta ya mahindi, ni kwamba ole wao, kwa sababu mahindi inakuja, wao bei wanataka ipande, haitapanda, na pia mwezi wa 8 wakulima wataleta mahindi kwa soko. Kwa hiyo bei itashuka tu. Kile ambacho tunaomba tu ni kwamba watoe mahindi, manake hawatafaidika kwa njia yote. Makatelo hapo.
Bwana Oguno, huu mjadala leo ni mtamu sana. Na bado niko kwako.
Sawa.
Ndio, tuko katika soko huru.
Yes.
Na wazalishaji wana haki katika biashara. Lakini serikali basi inaingilia wapi kudhibiti bei ili kumsaidia huyu mwananchi wa kawaida asiumizwe kiuchumi?
Serikali, sikiliza, tukiwa katika soko huru, serikali haina uwezo wa kudhibiti bei.
Basi simlete bidhaa za serikali.
Serikali sio
tupate bei ya serikali
ifanye biashara. Naomba tuelewe.
Ndio.
Soko huru inasaidia mambo yapi? Mimi na labda nyinyi vijana wadogo. Kwa hiyo labda hamuelewi mambo mengi. Acha niseme hivi. Katika hapo awali, nyakati ambazo serikali ilikuwa kila sehemu, unapotaka kutoa gari yako Dubai, serikali lazima umuombe ruksa. Kipindi hicho. Unaomba ruksa kwa njia gani? Mahali ya kubadilisha dola ilikuwa ni sehemu moja peke yake, ilikuwa ni National Bank. Inamaanisha kwamba wewe Chozi la Almasi ukitaka gari lako unaenda National Bank. Bwana Rashidi, National Bank. Kila mmoja wetu National Bank. Msururu wa watu wako hivi. Sasa soko likafunguliwa. Hizi tunaenda sema forex bureaus zikatokea. Inamaanisha kwamba kwa kule Sili unabadilisha hela yako, ukiwa kule Kisumu badilisha hela yako, ukiwa Mombasa. Haikuwepo hapo awali. Sasa ukisema tudhibiti, basi ni serikali irudi ndani tena, watu hawatakubali. Maana tumezoea kuwa huru. Lakini vile vile pia kwa soko ni hivyo hivyo. Wao ukiwa na mahindi yako nenda ukauze, mimi nikiwa na mahindi yangu nikauze pia. Hasa ile bei italingana na mazao kule kwa soko. Iwapo soko ina mahindi mengi sana, bei itashuka. Nyakati serikali imesema kwamba kila tuseme gunia moja ya mahindi iuzwe kwa, tuseme mahindi mabichi. Mahindi mabichi mtoa shambani mwako unauza, kwamba kila gunia moja iwe inauza labda shilingi 2,000 iko ni mabichi. Wewe mwenyewe ukoona mahindi yangu nilitumia gunia moja labda shilingi 3,000, utakubali? Kwa hivyo kile ambacho naomba wananchi waelewe ni kwamba kule kutokuwepo serikali ndani ni kitu kizuri sana. Nyakati ambazo vitu vikiendelea sawa, utaki kuona serikali. Iwapo kuna usalama, hata na DC tujue ni nani, polisi komanda tujue ni nani. Nyakati kuna tatizo la kiusalama ndio tutajua hawa watu. Kama naelewa vile ninavyosema.
Lakini sasa unajua janga la njaa limetangazwa kama janga la kitaifa. Na kuna bidhaa za vyakula ambao wahudumu wa serikali kama vile jeshi nini wana bidhaa zao tax free. Mbona tusipate kama hizo pia sisi tax free? Kwa hili janga tusaidiane.
Vitu vya jeshi sio tax free. Nadhani kwamba watu wamekosea tu. Sio tax free, labda ni kiwango fulani tu, lakini pia kwa sababu ya kazi yao. Kidogo sana. Unanielewa? Mimi naomba tu tuelewe vizuri sana, kwa sababu kwamba nyakati ambazo vitu vimekuja sokoni kwa wingi. Tuseme kwa mfano tu. Leo hii serikali imesema kwamba tuseme pakti moja ya unga iwe ni shilingi 150 kwa mfano tu. Manake sasa nadhani kama shilingi 200 na 7 na 5 hapo. Hajafika 40. 207, tuseme kwa mfano tu.
Uko sawa.
Serikali iseme sasa ni shilingi 200. Leo, kesho kutwa. Alafu mwingine pale amona mahindi yamekuwa mengi, yeye kwa hiari yake akasema mimi nitauza yangu kwa shilingi 158 ama 160. Utanunua wapi? Unapenda mfano tu, utaenda kununua kwa nani?
Huyu ambaye haina bei ya juu.
Lakini unaenda pale vipi na serikali imeweka bei? Mbona unaenda pale? Mbona usinunue tu kwa shilingi 200? Inamaanisha kwamba soko yenyewe iko na mikono yake, kuna serikali yake. Soko peke yake. Umenielewa? Kuna ile tunaita kwa lugha the hidden hand ya soko. Hiyo hand inabadilisha mambo mengi sana pale. Nyakati ambazo bidhaa zimekuwa nyingi, bei bila shaka itashuka. Kwa vile kile ambacho tunaomba kwa sasa hivi ni kwamba serikali izidi kuweka mikakati hivi kwamba mahindi hizo zizidi milioni 3, izidi hadi milioni 6 kwa njia ya haraka. Lakini pia wale wakulima wanapovuna mahindi pia walete kwa soko. Nakwambia bila shaka kesho itakuwa ni Jumatano. Na mimi nakuhakikishia kwamba bei pia itashuka jinsi kesho itakuwa Jumatano. Bila shaka.
Haya,
bei itashuka.
Msikilizaji,
naomba tu muelewe. Serikali kiingilia biashara za watu, basi hapo ndio tatizo litaanzia.
Kuna jambo fulani umetaja serikali, na wewe kwa sababu ni msemaji wa serikali ni vizuri labda ukaliweka wazi. Hivi unadhani kwa nini sisi kama Wakenya tunalaumu sana serikali, haswa hii serikali ya sasa hivi, mpaka wale ambao wamehudumu ndani ya serikali bado wanalaumu serikali? Hivi labda unaweza kuliweka wazi.
Yani wamo ndani ya serikali
lakini nadhani kwamba tuelewe pia tuko katika kipindi kipi. Tuko katika kipindi cha uchaguzi. Na kila mmoja anataka sifa, si kweli? Utapata sifa vipi bila kulaumu serikali? Umeelewa? Kwa hivyo tujaribu kutofautisha vitu vya tija na vitu vya uchaguzi ama mambo ya kisiasa. Mambo ya kisiasa mtu atasema chochote tu. Mkinichagua kila mmoja atakuwa na maji ya moto kwa nyumba yake. Utapiga makofi, lakini ni kweli? Si kweli. Kila mmoja anataka sifa zake tu. Nyakati ambazo wale ambao walikuwa kwa serikali wanalaumu serikali na wao wapo ndani ama walikuwepo wako nje kwa sasa, inakuaje wanalaumu serikali? Wanataka sifa tu. Unaelewa? Lakini cha msingi ni hivi kwamba iwapo uko katika mazingira serikali haisikiki pale, yani usalama upo kwa njia ambao ni sawa, bei za bidhaa, mtu anaenda anapeleka matunda yake sokoni, wengi tu analeta matunda zao sokoni, bei inashuka, watu nafurahi. Umenielewa? Serikali, nyakati ambazo serikali haipo ndani kwa kila siku na mambo yanaenda sawa, ujue serikali inafanya kazi pale pembeni. Usalama utakuwepo, barabara zitakuwepo, maji yatakuwepo, umeme utakuwepo, shule zitakuwepo. Sasa ndio serikali hasa jukumu lake ni kuweka mazingira, lakini sio kuingiza mkono pale kwamba dada Almasi, wewe hii bidhaa yako lichatizo, pamoja na kwamba ulitumia shilingi 5,000 iuze shilingi 3,000. Utakubali? Mimi naomba tu mnijibu, mtakubali?
Hatutakubali.
Lakini pia hapo na kabla tujatoka kwa mada hii, wewe Rashidi umeenda Dubai ama umeenda UAE, umeleta tons kadhaa za mafuta. Si ni kweli? Sio unafanya biashara yako. Alafu serikali nasema kwamba hizi japo ulinunua kwa shilingi labda tuseme milioni 200, lakini tunaomba iuze kwa milioni 150. Utakubali? Utakubali? Hauwezi kubali. Kwa hivyo nadhani kwamba ni vizuri pia tuelimishe umma, manake tuko katika nafasi nzuri ya kuweza kuelimisha umma.
Okay, shikilia hapo Bwana Sera Suguna, tuna dakika 10 tu, lakini wacha tumpatie na msikilizaji nafasi. Kuna mmoja hapa kauliza na lazima niweze kuisoma kwenye ukurasa wetu wa Facebook. Anaitwa Benson Oleng kutoka Kisumu, anauliza, naomba muulize msemaji wa serikali, can we refine our oil from Turkana? Swali la kwanza hilo. Hello Radio Taifa. Hello Radio Taifa. Hello Radio. Yes.
KBC.
Yes.
Karibu.
Mimi nauliza mgeni hivi. Hello KBC.
Tunakusikiza, uliza swali.
Mimi nauliza mgeni hivi. Yeye anasema kwamba serikali kuingilia bei ya wafanyabiashara haiwezi. Sasa vitu vitashukaje kama serikali haiwezi kuingilia? Wana vile mwananchi anatakana pia apate huduma. Sisi walisema mambo ya mafuta kwamba serikali imetoa pesa itaweka kwa mafuta, lakini nakichaona mafuta ikishuka bei.
Okay, asante, swali lako tumeelewa. Tushike swali jingine moja la mwisho. Hello Zinga. Hello Zinga.
Jambo.
Hatujambo.
Huyo ni Lucas bwana.
Lucas, karibu kutoka Dandora.
Asante sana. Mimi nauliza hivi, Wakenya ni wapi tumeanguka kwa upande wa kilimo na chakula? Kwa sababu ndugu zanguni, ukijaribu kuangalia wiki ile nimepitia hii road ya kwenda Namanga, yani kuna jam za malori na kutoa mahindi nje za jirani. Sisi ni wapi tumeanguka jamani?
Okay. Haya, Bwana Oguna, nadhani tujibu hayo maswali kwa sababu ya muda.
Asante sana. Na nadhani kwamba swali la kwanza ni kuuliza tu, swali nilikuwa nimejibu kwamba inakuwaje sisi hatuwezi kuweza kuwa na kiwanda cha refine mafuta hapa. Nilikuwa nimesema kwamba mafuta yetu iko katika hali ya chini sana, ambapo hali ndogo sana kiasi cha kwamba haiwezi ruhusu tuwe na kiwanda. Itakuwa ni vile kwamba wewe pia ukiwa mazao yako ni machache, huwezi fungua kiwanda cha kutengeneza mahindi, unga wa mahindi. Utapelekea mwingine ambayo akona uwezo wa kupata mahindi kutoka kwa wakulima wengi. Sasa wewe unakuwa ni baadhi ya wale wakulima wanapeleka mahindi yao wapi? Pale kwa kiwanda cha kuweza kutengeneza unga wa ugali. Hivyo tu. I think ni kitu ambacho ni cha kawaida tu. Amesema bei itashuka vipi serikali bila kuingilia? Na haja na bei ya mafuta kishuka, huyu bana anauliza. Lakini nimesema hivi kwamba bei tayari mahali ipo. Kwa kweli ingelikuwa juu zaidi kama serikali haingeingilia. Hiyo 159 kwa lita moja ya petroli ni chini sana kuliko nchi zote, ni kwa sababu ya kule serikali kuingilia. Na serikali imeingilia kivipi? Kuweza kutoa ruzuku. Serikali haitasema kwamba bei ya mafuta iwe shilingi 140. Ikisema hivyo, basi ile ya juu lazima inabidi serikali ilipe. Hiyo ndiyo ruzuku. Hiyo hapo juu. Ikisema kwamba bei shuka hadi 150, 140, sawa, itashuka, lakini nani atalipia hiyo juu? Hiyo hapo juu itakuwa ni serikali tu. Kwa hivyo kwa sasa hivi serikali imepeana ruzuku, imeongea kuhusu shilingi bilioni 66 kuanzia mwaka huu hadi sasa. Ya mwisho ilikuwa ni inakuwaje kuna malori mengi kutoka Tanzania kuleta mahindi hapa. Kwa kweli sio nchi zote zimebarikiwa kuweza kuwa na mashamba yenye rutuba, mashamba makubwa. Tanzania kwa bahati nzuri wako na nchi kubwa, alafu pia ni nchi ambayo ilibarikiwa kuweza kuwa na sehemu nyingi zenye rutuba na pia na mvua. Kwa hivyo utakuta kwamba mazao kule hasa mahindi yanafanya vizuri zaidi kuliko hapa kwetu. Pia na Zambia. Kwa hivyo pia kuna mahindi yanatoka Zambia. Malori hayo ambayo yalikuwa yamesimama kule mpakani, na ni kwa sababu kulikuwa na tatizo kidogo ya tuseme zile tunasema non-tariff barriers hapo kwa mpaka. Ndio ikafanyisha waziri wa kilimo kwenda hadi Namanga na akasuluhisha, na sasa mahindi yanakuja kwa njia ya haraka, magari yanapita kwa njia ya haraka, ili kwanza tuweze kupata mahindi ya kutosha hapa nchini. Bwana Oguna, swali langu la mwisho kabla ya kuweza kumaliza kipindi, naona waelekezi wetu wanatuambia muda wetu haunasi. Mbona viwanda vya serikali vinakufa, vile vilivyo hai havina natija?
Alafu pia kuna ule mradi wa Uganda Kenya kuhusu haya mafuta ambao walikataa tena wakaenda Uganda, Tanzania. Ilikuwaje? Ni kwa sababu ya hivi viwanda? Kwa sababu pia mafuta yanaonekana kwamba yalikuwepo kwa muda huo, alafu wakakataa. Inakuwaje?
Nadhani kwamba hiyo swali ya Uganda na Kenya pamoja na kwenda Tanzania ni mtu akona uhuru kweli. Uganda wako na uhuru wa kwenda popote mahali ambapo wanapotaka kupitisha mafuta ya kwao. Sio lazima apitie hapa. Walikuwa wakiangalia wewe pia unapotaka kununua nguo, unapitia kwa hii duka hii nyingine, kisha unatoa uamuzi. Wao pia walifanya hivyo, wakaangalia Uganda, sasa wakaangalia Tanzania na wakaangalia Kenya, kisha wakaamua kwamba watapitia wapi? Watapitia Tanzania. Ni uhuru wa mtu yote. Sio lazima, hatuwezi walazimisha. Lakini ile kitu umeuliza Bwana Rashid, ilikuwa ni kwamba viwanda vya serikali havina tija. Kwa kweli mimi nitakueleza, serikali ya aina yote haikuundwa kwa msingi wa kufanya biashara. Serikali ifanye biashara vizuri. Hata mahoteli za serikali zote karibu zinafifia, ni kwa sababu serikali kwa msingi wake niweza kupeana huduma tu. Huduma nimetaja mengi tu, sana huduma ya usalama. Hivi kwamba yeyote ambaye angependa kufanya biashara yake afanye biashara hiyo katika mazingira ambayo ni salama. Hilo ndio jukumu hasa kubwa ya serikali. Pamoja na mengine nimetaja, huduma ya maji, umeme, barabara, mambo haya mengine, afya, shule, elimu, yote ni kupeana huduma. Ila tu nyakati fulani serikali inaweza taka kufanya biashara ndogo. Kwa mfano kama kwa hoteli, kuna zile hoteli ambazo serikali iko na tuseme asilimia fulani. Umenielewa? Kwa hivyo nyakati ambazo serikali kuna asilimia kubwa, nyakati fulani biashara hizo hazifanyi vizuri. Umenielewa? Kwa hivyo ndio sababu kama serikali inazidi kujiondoa kwa biashara kama hizo, ili kwamba wapatie wawekezaji waweze kuinua viwanda hivyo.
Labda tukimalizia sasa, ushauri wako kwa Wakenya kuhusu jinsi ya hali hii, jinsi inavyoendelea na jinsi ambavyo wanaweza tukadhibiti maisha haya ambayo ni mazito na magumu kwetu, hatujayatarajia na wengine wana matarajio tofauti na haya. Je, unaweza kuwapatia ushauri gani tukimalizia?
Ushauri tu kwamba mwanzo naomba waelewe tu kwamba sio kitu ambacho ni cha hapa ndani, ni kitu cha kutoka nje ya nchi, lakini kama serikali tunafanya kila jitihada kuweza kuidhibiti. Ya pili ni kwamba na wananchi pia waweze kutafuta chakula mbadala, ili kwamba tisiwe ni ugali tu, ugali siku zote. Iwe ni ugali leo, kesho nakula vitu tofauti. Umeelewa? Hata na pia nadhani kwamba tuwajakuwa wanasema tukule hata na nyoka pia ikiwezekana. Lakini vitu mbadala hivi kwamba isiwe tusiangalie kitu kimoja. Lakini kama serikali tutazidi kuweka mikakati ya kuweza kusaidia mwananchi asije kapata uzito zaidi, apate unafuu. Lakini pia tukiwa shambani tuweze kutumia mbinu mpya za kuweza kulima ili kwamba mazao yetu yaweze kuwa mengi, ili tulete mazao sokoni na bei za bidhaa ziweze kushuka. Ya mwisho tu ni kwamba tunaingia katika kipindi cha uchaguzi. Napenda kile ambacho ulisema kwamba amani itawale kila sehemu. Maana tunaomba tu amani iwepo kabla uchaguzi, amani iwepo wakati uchaguzi, na amani pia itawale baada ya uchaguzi, ili kwamba tuwe kitu kimoja tunapoelekea kwa uchaguzi, tuwe kitu kimoja tunapotoka kwa uchaguzi.
Asante sana ndugu Cyrus Oguna kuja studio zetu, na tunakushukuru kwa uwepo wako na kuweza kuzungumza nasi juu ya masuala mbalimbali ya kitaifa. Sasa kilichobakia tu tualike mimi na Chozi ofisi yako ya Harambee pale tukanwe kikombe cha kahawa. Ama namna gani mefanya?
Kabisa hiyo. Niambie muda wenu.
Leo
hata leo sawa.
Na basi mtazamaji,
hata leo sawa.
Na basi mtazamaji, kufikia hapa ndipo tunapokamilisha kipindi hiki ndani ya KBC Channel 1 na vile vile pia ndani ya Radio Taifa Zinga. Tumekuwa tukizungumza naye msemaji wa serikali ndugu Kanali mstaafu Cyrus Oguna, ambaye sidhani kama taifa la Kenya litakuja pata msemaji wa serikali mfasaha anayearticulate mambo kisawasawa, alafu yani
hatetereki hatetemeki.
Wazungu wasema he's ever available. Na basi mtazamaji, shukrani za dhati kwa wale wote waliofanikisha kipindi hiki. Wapiga picha wetu hapa ndani ya studio siwezi kuhesabu, ni wengi. Asanteni sana kwa kazi nzuri. Vile vile pia waelekeze wetu, asante sana Fadhili Athman, asante sana Ben Kamuti Ngui, asante vile vile pia Matonjeru, na asante sana vile vile pia wakuu wa kitengo hiki Geoffrey Onditi, Bi Lucy Wahome, mkuu wa Radio Taifa Bernard Maranga. Sisi tumekuwa watangazaji wako. Jina langu naitwa Rashid Momkondo,
na mimi niite Mwajuma Ali Chozi la Almasi. Asante.
Na pembezoni kushoto
mimi ni Kanali mstaafu Cyrus Oguna.
Bara kwenu wenzetu kutoka kipindi cha Good Morning Kenya
toka Nairobi, Kenya.
Reggae nice and it make ya. No matter what you news can know when no safer. So me have you hold me head high. Rise me people to the sky. I say, hey Mr. DJ, play that one again. Well, this a reggae music where the people them depend on. From now till the morning vibes and all go end. When you say I'm for you.
Me, my face now grown a tree.
Champion, me a the champion. Champion, me a the champion.
Bounce, hop, skip your enemy there. Swing your one from left to right, me know the saga man then.
Right now, we are no longer legally married. I'm happy to hear that.
You can't keep me in here any longer than what the Dutch ordered. You hear me?
I would have preferred it if he never told me, so that it would only remain to be hearsay.
And that is why we believe that maybe Rutilio could have abused.
Jello? Oh, no. I can't believe this. My wife is already in a horrible mood. When she finds out about this, she'll be unbearable.
All I can see now is that I'm living in a golden cage that is choking me and killing me slowly.
How about we get married and live here together?
I'll marry you.
I can see that you're still in love with the prince. Why would you offer to marry the king?
Echo?
If you betray me, then all of our vows are void. I'll leave you and you won't see me again.
都是假象。
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far. We continue with Good Morning Kenya. We are still using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains to be at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Jane Wambui across all the social media platforms. We'd love to know where you are watching us from this morning, so feel free to check in via those various social handles. So now we move on to the next segment. And speaking of handles, we want to focus on the digital space. Understanding the impact that the digital space has brought, and especially when it comes to the traditional way of doing things. You know, we are living in a time where social media is taking over things that used to be mainstream. We are seeing people setting up businesses on the online platform, on the digital platform. But what impact has the digital platform brought when it comes to the entrepreneurial space? With us in studio this morning, we have Brian Sakwa. He is a digital journalist as well as a podcaster, and also doubles as a voice-over artist. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning to you, Jan. Good to see you.
Thank you for making time to be with us.
You're one of those people you've been watching on TV for years, and then you finally met them.
Okay,
look at me now. Look at Godo.
When you say those years, you make me look old, bruh.
Relax.
Nonetheless, how can guys find you on social media?
All right, you can chat with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is at Brian Sakwa. Brian Sakwa 101 on Twitter. Facebook is at Brian Sakwa. On Instagram is at Uncle Sakwa. And my YouTube channel is at Brian Sakwa Podcast.
Uncle
Check
Sakwa?
me out. Yes, Uncle Sakwa on Instagram.
All right.
It is my radio name anyways.
Fantastic. Now, we're talking about the digital platform, and it's something that you are well in. But maybe somebody is watching us today and they're wondering, okay, I thought social media and digital media are whole different entities, but is it so, or they're just one and the same thing?
All right, social, digital. I think the definition could be social is basically you're using it from the unsocialized.
Yes.
You're using it to reach out to people, chat, interact. But digital media is basically, I'd say, where, like, for example, KBC wants to shut down doing traditional TV. Like we don't want it to run on let's say Signet or whichever line KBC uses. We basically want to focus on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, mainly YouTube, or a website where people can stream KBC and get to watch all the content KBC is producing, as compared to like just being on Signet or DSTV or GoTV. Yeah.
What is considered mainstream?
Literally mainstream, yeah.
All right.
Or traditional media, we call it.
But now looking at digital media, everybody is sort of just jumping into it, and it has caused this disruption in the market. And maybe from what you have seen, you know, just also being part of this group, what disruption has come along with this digital platform that has been made so accessible, even just on the phone?
Yeah, I think it's because it's, like you mentioned, accessible. Anyone can access it at the comfort of their own time. Like, we live in a generation where people are working.
Yeah.
People have gone to schools, people have degrees, people have jobs 9 to 5. If I want to catch up with this show, maybe, should I rush home to go and sit down and sit in front of a TV and start watching it? No. I can download the KBC app on my mobile phone and get to watch and catch up with everything that happened from morning till evening. So I think that is one of like the main distinct lines that has brought this disruption, is that it's accessible to anyone at the comfort of their own home and at the comfort of their own time. You could be at work, or you could be in your car driving, heading to work. Shout out to those who have cars. And you're just streaming it on your mobile phone. So you don't have to like stress so much and be like, wacha nifike nyumbani nikae chini ya TV. No, it's accessible just at the comfort of your cell phone. So it's the power of a cell phone / the power of digital media.
All right.
Yeah.
And there's always been this age gap divide, because most people associate traditional TV or traditional mainstream media with the older generation versus the younger generation that are seemingly inclining to the digital platforms. Is it also a question of, you know, the age gap that there is, looking at our parents who are the millennials and this Gen Z that are taking over in line with the digital age of disruption?
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you on that one, because as compared to like the 90s kids, shout out to the 90s kids. I think for the 90s kids, we came in at an age and dispensation when, you know, the digital media or the digital space was just being born. And our parents were like, you will say TBT, like throwback days when there was no Android phone. It's just a button, you know. Some of the crazy mobile, you should go and check them out, by the way. The mobile cell phones that were being used way back. So I think it's an age thing. You can imagine a child born in 2000 and a person born in 1950. In terms of experience and experiencing different generations, there's a whole different line.
And the level of exposure.
The level of exposure. So like you said, it's an age thing. You can't compare. Literally, you can't. Yeah.
But now they also say that we cannot do away with mainstream media in as much as digital is coming and taking over. It's like saying, yes, we can access the newspaper online, but you can't just get rid of the actual newspaper.
Literally.
Can digital and mainstream media coexist in a way that they both complement each other without needing to phase out one?
Absolutely. I think one can merge. One is the one merging with the other. Traditional media is merging with the digital media, because you realize this is like the mother of all inventions. Before we had technology, we had this.
Yes.
So like we say, if you want to predict the future, then use the past. We can't just downplay it and delete it and say, we can't use traditional media anymore, because people are still employed, people are still getting jobs there. And it's like the originality of life. So it's just an evolution. It's an evolution process and a creation process, and we are advancing. As time goes by, we are advancing and moving from one generation or dispensation to another. So we can't do away with traditional media.
All right.
But I feel like it's going to fade off. It's going to fade off. I feel like it's going to fade off as time goes by. Like we mentioned, there's some stations which literally shut down TV, and they completely went digital. So no, you can see the disruption it caused. So as compared to people like being used to coming and, you know, sitting down and watching a broadcast, you can still do it.
Because it's the same thing that the pandemic did do to so many people that are used to going to work in an office. You wake up, you have your 8 to 5, you go to the office. But now with the pandemic, it showed literally the whole world that you can work from home and still be as effective.
Yeah, shout out to Zoom. If you're working at a place and you've not used Zoom, please wake up. I don't know what's happening.
So again, coming to the fact that they can both coexist, or we will get to a time where one will have to be phased out completely?
Well, I think it's a wait and see, and it's a process that's taking time. So let's wait and see. But I feel like as we go and we advance, and also technology advances, it's something that might just follow up kidogo to, but not much.
Now, what about businesses?
Okay.
We are living in a time where online shopping has become a reality for so many people, as opposed to back then when it was a sort of luxury for some.
Yeah.
Now, looking at those that are trying to venture onto the digital platform to start their businesses, we call them digital entrepreneurs, compared to somebody who wants to set up a physical shop. What are the pros and cons in this case?
I think it should be like who are your target customers? If your target customers are people who are millennial-like, or let's say working class people, that means working class people are able to access your products digitally. Like there's an emergence of digital influencers. Right now you don't have to like pay an advert on TV to run and be like, hey, my name is Sako and I'm advertising my phone. No, you have to get an influencer who has numbers on social media. They can give you a shout out on their Facebook platform or Twitter or Instagram, and you'll be able to get direct clients who will come to you at the comfort of your own space and time. But like I mentioned, it must be in line with the kind of business you're doing. You can't say I'm a mamboga, but I'm sure as time goes by, mamambogas will have an app where they'll be able to sell skuma wiki. Hey, come buy my skuma wiki, come buy omena. So I think it goes in line with the kind of business and the size of business. Yeah.
All right. It's interesting that you mentioned that, but now in this case, those are people that may have maybe an actual product that they're selling. What about in this age of content creation and somebody wants to set up their business in content creation, but they're not sure as to how they're going to actually generate an income on this digital platform just selling content, and especially for the youth that are trying to venture into this direction?
Well, I think you have to believe in yourself, because every one of us is trying to figure everything out. So if you feel like you want to start making money online, the first thing or the first hack you have to do is just start. Start with what you have. You don't have to have an expensive phone, an iPhone or an expensive camera, because right now it's all about content creation. Everybody wants to watch something interesting online. Nobody wants to listen to a boring person on radio anymore. We want humor. So find a sport that's comfortable for you and professionalize in the sport and start making content about it. It doesn't necessarily have to be TV-like. You can even make content about cooking yams, man. Be interesting, bro. That's what people want to watch, not just official conversations, literally. So be interesting and find a sport that you're comfortable in professionalizing. It will work definitely, eventually. Yeah.
But we're always also seeing the fans, the viewers, also saying the kind of content and the quality of content that you put out there is key to your success or your failure.
Absolutely.
Much as you are able to start shooting with your phone, eventually guys will be like,
the quality is...
Your quality is mbona hauna iPhone, as you're saying, or why don't you have an actual camera? Looking at these pressures that you have to endure when you are diving into this digital space.
Yeah. I think just like any other profession, you have to be very intentional. Even you, before you become a radio TV presenter, there's some things you had to go through. There's some training you had to go through, whether you liked it or not, because you basically want to hit that spot. So also in content creation, you have to sacrifice a lot. If you want the best, then you must sacrifice. Nothing comes out of beauty. Everything has come from pain. So sacrifice for that. If you want good content, and you know, people are all about watching clear videos.
Yes.
People want visuals that are memorable and interesting to look at. Clear audio. Nobody wants disrupted audio. We want to listen to very clear audio. So it must be, if you're using a mobile phone, at least let it be of quality. But for starters, just start with what you have, by the way. If you're not yet on that level, at least use what you have. Because content creation is one of the, it's like a storm that's taking over the world by storm. And people want to watch quality stuff. You've seen videos that have gone viral. Even musicians who have the best quality videos, they are played almost in every good mainstream station, because your content is your face card, is your tool of trade, basically. It's your identity in terms of now the profession. So quality is like the first items on the list if you want to start it.
Invest
even for TV. Nobody wants to watch a blurry television, by the way. We want clear TV.
All right. So invest in the kind of stuff that you put out there, much as you might not be in that financial place to, you know, get all this good quality gear for your production. You can always start small and build on it.
Absolutely.
And then bullies.
Yeah.
on the social platform,
I know, right?
they have a field day every day. Keyboard warriors are always out to look at what is not working with what you're putting out there in terms of your content or your product or the service that you're offering.
Yeah.
Dealing with bullies is one of the cons that you have to learn to handle on the social platforms. But we're seeing so many young people in very sad cases even resulting to suicide because of bullying online. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think interesting question. I think that comes to a point of being able to decipher or differentiate feedback. Feedback sometimes comes in form of criticism, and criticism can be positive or negative. So how you take the comments and what people talk or give about your product, sometimes it's a personal place. You know, somebody could criticize your look. So somebody could be watching even this television program and thinking that this host is not even beautiful. How dare you think? How dare you think of that? God forbid. But it should come from a place of like choosing to understand feedback and understanding that people are different. You know, somebody they could be experiencing or going through a bad day, and they're like, what? So this is what this dude is posting. They throw in some shady comments that might hurt you. So I think you must be prepared to, like I always say this, if you want to be in the mainstream space, be ready to receive feedback. It's like being in the public space. You have no right to regulate what people think about you. So if somebody thinks you're ugly on TV, you have no power to go and tell them, look at me, I'm beautiful and handsome. No, it's them who are thinking like that and respect their opinion, but it is in your place to understand how you're going to break that feedback to yourself. If you let it go to your heart, definitely it's gonna break you. It's gonna hurt. But you can brush it off. And for people who get 1,000 comments, you can imagine people being trolled online, and it's detrimental to their mental health, and you end up, committing suicide. So just practice taking feedback, whether it's negative, and remember, people are different. The number of eyeballs that land on your content online, everybody comes from a different background. We have different experiences. Somebody could be watching this and saying, this dude is too dark. No, this is just me. God forbid. So learn to filter what builds you and what doesn't build you. Literally. All right, now let's focusing on content creation. People are looking to go viral. They're looking to trend. They're looking to, once you trend, you get the numbers. And maybe along the way, you could get influencers, partnerships, that will help you financially. But understanding that you can't just jump on every trend. Literally. Tell us a bit about that. I think in this day and age, everybody wants attention and everybody wants numbers, and there's that societal pressure that if you have these numbers, you definitely are kicking it in life or you got it. It's a lie. There's people who have 1 million subscribers and 1 million followers, but they are struggling. So just learn to differentiate that social media and real life, they are two different homes. Real life, we could be here on TV, but we don't have cars. But unfortunately, people think when you're on TV, you have a car. It's a lie, guys. There's real life and there's social media. So social media sometimes can be a fantasy, and don't let it get into your head. So and if you maybe for those that I think there's a term of there's this socialite who went viral for twerking. If you're all about getting the attention and you feel like it's gonna give you the leverage that you want, good for you. Good for you, literally. You're a digital journalist. Yeah. That means you also put information out there. Yeah. But you also find others that they could be putting this information out there, but they haven't gone the extra mile to fact check and ensure that they're putting out genuine, authentic, and factual information. Yeah. How is this a disservice to you as an individual, and maybe someone who's watching us today, when they don't take the time to do their research, to just see something on somebody else's platform, take it and repost it without verifying if it's authentic and factual? Yeah, I think that's when the issue of fake news comes in, and like you mentioned, fact-checking. I believe every journalist who is on radio, television, or whichever platform, you have gone through the ethics and the training of, if this is a news piece I'm broadcasting online, I have verified it. It has gone through the editorial stages. If it's a news piece or an entertainment piece, basically it has been filtered by my editor. And even as a reporter, you've gone on the ground, you have researched, you've come up with statistics, and you're able to even post it online. And maybe if it goes viral, that's a blessing. But I think there's a difference. I feel like there's a very huge difference between just a content creator who came out of nowhere or let's say who started creating content and they went viral, and all of a sudden after they got the numbers, a station poached them and gave them a radio station. I think when it comes to the ethics of journalism, as compared to like a person who has been to a journalism class, there's a very thin line. Because for you, as a TV presenter who has had this training for years, you have gone through the ethics. Even the house style of your station will not allow you to do some certain things.
Yes.
As compared to just an influencer who started on YouTube or somewhere, they definitely do not know the ethos or the ethics of content production, especially if it's objectively targeted to like impact or infiltrate people's minds. So that's the difference, literally.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, still focusing on content creators, most of them again are out to entertain.
Literally, yeah.
But you find some of these videos and scenarios that they put out may not be as palatable for all the age groups.
Yeah.
But looking at the time that they post them, they're accessible even to children.
Yeah.
Looking at, you know, the fact that you're also a content creator,
Yeah.
maybe what are your thoughts when it comes to the kind of content that is put out there that is not family friendly, but it's still put out there because you are looking to get numbers on the digital platforms?
I think the power lies in the power lies on the other end, or the recipient, receiver, we call it in the line of communication.
But kids can access it.
Yeah, kids can access it. I think if you're a parent back at home, you should be able to have a filter for the content kids access, and that includes even the PG guide. Yeah, I'm sure you're able to note that before any program airs on TV, there's usually a disclaimer: parental guidance is required.
Yes.
But now when it comes to online, it's social media. Everyone can access it, and I think social media is like a free household where anyone can pop in whenever they want. But it goes back to the power of the parent. As a parent, what are some of the guidelines you have, or what are some of the boundaries you have set up for your kids when it comes to accessing a mobile phone? You know, there's those parents who just leave their phones to their kids, and you find children even accessing crazy pornographic sites.
Yes.
And at the same time, it becomes addictive, and it destroys even their mental health and their well-being. So I believe as a parent, or anyone aspiring to be one, ensure that if you're leaving your mobile phone to your kids or any digital gadget, ensure at least you have a filter, or there's mainly some specific programs set for the kids of a certain age, so that your children are not watching adult content, even online on YouTube. There's those features even on smart TVs right now. So it's the power lies back to the recipient, that is the parent.
And what about the responsibility of the content creator? When I know what I'm putting out there, this is for 18 and over or 30 and over.
Yeah.
What should I also go the extra mile of putting a disclaimer before this video I put out?
Exactly. I'm sure you've read some certain, especially I follow a lot of USA YouTubers and content creators. In most of their criticism, even entertainment shows, they usually give a disclaimer that this content is basically, or contains language that's abusive and disruptive. So it's cool as a content creator to always have a disclaimer or a notice, or just state the target audience. This content is basically set for 18 and above years, so that if a father or mother, or you know, there's content that just a 45-year-old or a 50, or let's say a 70-year-old with a mobile phone should not be watching. It's basically set up for millennials, so
yes.
it can be controversial. Yeah,
all right.
It can be controversial.
Then again, we are in that political era.
Yeah.
You know, there is about 35 days to the general elections, and we are seeing also people publicly declaring the political stance. Now, as a content creator, is this advisable to show the public your political affiliations or your political stance, that also you are merging with the kind of content you're putting out there?
Well,
especially as a young one.
That question is interesting. I think it can be dramatic because right now in our country, I don't know what happens whenever there's an election. It's usually like, you know, temperatures are very high and things are a little bit scary. Even when you look at the economy and everything that's happening in our country, the cheapest, you know, the staple food of this country is ugali. It's like now the most expensive thing. Unga, man. Unga. The government should do something. But I think as a content creator, you have the responsibility of giving opinion, and shout out to Ajakoya anyways, I think everybody has been talking about Wajakoya for the better part of the day.
Your stand and you're here
I'm not declaring. Everybody has been talking about Wajakoya, but I feel like when it comes to political views, you should reserve them for yourself. It can give you a lot of luck, and people might come and attack you. And especially right now, temperatures are really tensive. So please, if you're a content creator, just reserve your political opinions, because I believe it can land you in trouble. I've not said I'm supporting Wajakoya, but you know, the ganja, the ganja. Yeah.
But then again, you find these are the same people that politicians are reaching out to because they have the masses and they help shape the opinion.
Yeah.
How then do they navigate that thin line between, you know, making money from this politician that has reached out and also not compromising themselves in terms of their political affiliations with their people that they're looking to reach?
I think it's an individual responsibility as a content creator, because like I think I have a friend of mine who is doing something with the Gadi, and the kind of brand, if for example, Jen, there's some certain brands that you don't want to associate yourself with, because if you do, they're going to taint your image and how people view you in the public domain.
Yes.
So if you're objective and intentional about your brand and the things you're known for, there's some certain lines or there's some certain things that you can't do. So I think if endorsing a certain political aspirant fits your brand, then good for you, use it. But if you feel like it's not good for you, even there's some, you realize there's some stations that have been branded are politicians.
We're not going to mention.
We are not going to do that,
yes,
for real.
please.
But just be careful. I think it's something that you rethink and rethink over and over again before you declare it out there.
Now, moving away from taking a political stand, there's also brand partnerships. You know, different companies, different organizations may also reach out to you as a young content creator.
Yeah.
Should you always jump at every opportunity to partner with a brand? Or what do you advise young content creators to consider before partnering with a brand to just put out their content?
The first thing I think you should do is researching. Researching, and like we mentioned before, is that brand resonating with your brand? Of course, you must have boundaries, and there's some standards. I'll say a memorandum of understanding is usually very important in signing these partnerships or some sort of contract legal contract. I remember there's a friend of mine who once had a very crazy back and forth with a company they did a gig with, and they never paid. And the reason is they never signed a memorandum of understanding. You have done a massive gig, and all of a sudden these people shut their mobile phones and you can't reach them anymore.
And this happens so much.
It happens every day to influencers out there. So ensure that if you have to endorse a product, do research and do a background check on them. And if you meet and sit down, ensure that what they're presenting to you, is it in line with what you represent as an influencer or even as a personality? And then where's the legal aspect of it? Let's sign an agreement so that if you veer off this agreement, meet me in court, literally. Meet me in court. Yeah, meet me in court. Yeah.
Research is vital. Do your due diligence to find out what is this brand all about. If they resonate with the kind of content or who I am as an individual. All right. Now, there comes the other aspect of trying to get these masses on the digital platform, because you can't set up a page today and expect by the end of the week I'm going to be having 100K subscribers, 100,000 followers on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the likes. When it comes to networking, traditionally, there's a gig somewhere, you go, meet people, exchange numbers, you network. But now looking at the digital platform, how can you use it to network, to bring in the numbers, to bring in the connections?
The digital space is the easiest space because it gives you the power of accessing it whenever you want it, as compared to like even coming to KBC and requesting for Jen's number, blah, blah, blah. The digital space is easier because first, when you post content that appeals to I'll say some certain audiences or some certain people, those people will start resonating with you.
Yes.
They will start liking you, and they'll become your constant fans and followers. And in that time, they'll be able to reach out to you and say, hey, I think I like your content and I might want to collaborate with you and even do something else. And also, when you have massive numbers, and I'll say LinkedIn is like one of the major networking, even most hiring companies right now, they're using LinkedIn. If you're there and you've listed your bio and your resume, I think LinkedIn is some sort of like a resume kind of a social media platform.
It's a professional social platform.
Yeah. You're able to reach out to HR companies and, you know, send them your bio. They'll be able to read what you've done and everything and your experience, and they might hire you. As compared to like even just like dropping your CV to KBC and waiting for them to give you a call. So I think it's easier to reach out also. Reaching out. For example, if I want to reach out to you, maybe a person is watching back at home and you want to reach out to Jen, just text her on IG. She'll definitely see it. So accessibility and reaching out is easier. Yeah, so you're able to reach out to whoever you want. If you want to text Beyonce right now and tell her I like your album, you can do it on Instagram and she will read and respond. I hope she will.
Why do people put so many hashtags under certain captions? Does it serve a purpose?
It definitely does, because hashtags are very powerful when it comes to content. Yeah, to content, especially being, even for this show, I'm sure there's specific hashtags for each
Hashtag is
segment.
Good Morning Kenya.
I know, right?
Hey.
They're mainly targeted to create attention and visibility, and it's also some kind of like identity for that content. So hashtags, good. It's great that you mentioned it. It's very key and major. Even you personally, I'm sure you have your own hashtag. It's like your own soundtrack, right? A hashtag is a product's soundtrack, literally.
All right.
Yeah.
So they go a long way.
Yeah. So ensure that you have a hashtag for you, even for your mom.
Okay. All right. Now this brings me to guidelines that are also on the social platforms.
Yeah.
Traditionally, even a media house has its own guidelines that regulate how we operate.
House style.
So does the social media platforms, and we see so many people saying my account was shut down. Maras Jeff violated community guidelines. How do you, or rather, what would you advise the young folk, especially who are creating content, to look for these guidelines and know what they state, and especially when it comes to violating copyrights for maybe somebody's song and the likes?
I think the first thing, anyone who's joining social media right now, that's strange if you're joining social media right now, ensure that you read the terms and conditions of each and every app. Of course, most of us ignore, like, should I read all these paragraphs? It is very important to read before joining Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, even YouTube. What are some of the terms and conditions? And what are the penalties of abusing that app? If, for example, you're posting content or you're posting videos that are not required, or they should not literally be on that platform, read the terms and conditions of that app and get to understand. Because nowadays we have fallen prey to being hacked and people sharing explicit content because they have not read the terms and conditions. And some people are just, you know, cyber criminals. They want to disrupt a network. They want to come into a system and maybe hack it.
Yes.
So that should be like one of the major things before you do. And then you mentioned about copyright. If you're using somebody's content or someone else's content that's not yours, ensure that you give them credit, or at least consult them first before using it, because I've seen even YouTubers who have used somebody else's soundtrack in their intro, and the channel got suspended. A channel that had a lot of subscribers, only because you never consulted them. And some of this content right now is copyrighted. Is copyrighted, and you can't just use Jan's video and expect you will earn money from it. And ask her first. Ask her. So get permission, seek permission, follow the copyright rules.
And especially in this day and age of reposting, before you repost somebody's image or likeness of their image, you need to be careful that they do not sue you because you did not seek their consent. Now let's talk a bit about podcasts. You are a podcaster.
Literally.
And for the benefit of our viewers, just what's a podcast and what purpose do they serve in line with the position that they take in the broadcast space?
Wow, amazing question. I think a lot of people would confuse video blogging or vlogging. We call it vlogging with the podcasting. I think it's a trend. It's a trend in content creation right now, where get a microphone, get a good camera, good lighting, and good set, and start recording content that's pleasant to the people. So podcasting allows you to enjoy the audio. away from the video, or it gives you the opportunity to enjoy both of them as compared to like video vlogging where it's just video. Hey guys, welcome to my TV set. My name is Jen. So for a podcast, you're able to listen to the audio itself without like watching the visuals or get both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for the young folk that are watching us today and maybe they want to join the broadcast space, the journalism space, but they are hell-bent on wanting to join a media house or a production house that, you know, is established and it has its own gig going on.
Yeah.
What advantages do they stand to gain with just setting up a podcast with what they have to just get them started on their broadcast journey?
Good question. That gives you the power of being your own boss, and it gives you the power of being your own host, your own producer, your own director, your own scriptwriter, as compared to like Jen. Jen has a rundown, and this is a show that has been there. So for you, you have a rundown. Being run by your producers at the gallery, shout out to you guys. But for you as a podcaster back at home, you're running your own content, your own self. So you're able to determine the kind of direction your content should take.
Yes.
So it's a major advantage. And then you're free to shoot it whenever you want it. But for like as compared to this show, you must shoot it in the morning.
Yes.
It's literally structured and fixed. So that is the flexibility with like, you know, being your own content creator, being a podcaster.
Awesome. Now, as we bring this conversation to a close, just your word of advice to everyone who is venturing on this digital platform, either to set a business or to just start their content creation journey or even to just set up a podcast. There's your camera, shoot.
Okay, for anyone aspiring to be a content creator, you want to go into the digital space and start creating content, just start. The first thing is starting. Starting is like the biggest achievement. Once you start, you're good to go. And then also ensure that if you have a product, ensure that at least it has a target audience.
Yes.
And that is like the second thing. And then ensure that at least there's people who are supporting. Support system is very important. At least ensure that there's like 2-3 people who can be able to share your content. And if they do, definitely you'll get the numbers. And good content will always sell itself. It's an identity for it. And I think that's what I have to say. And but before that, ensure that you follow me out on my social media. By the way, I also do emceeing and moderating.
Give us a social handle so they can get all that info there.
Okay. Shout out to last year Amnesty chose me to moderate the Gender Youth Dialogue. Shout out to them. You can get me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's at Brian Sakwa 101 on Twitter. On Facebook it's at Brian Sakwa. On YouTube is at Brian Sakwa Podcast, and my Instagram is at Uncle Sakwa. If you want to book me for gigs, send me an email on sakwabrian2@gmail.com, and my number is 0717-829-615. That's my WhatsApp number, and also if you want to book me for a gig.
All right. Everything else, you will find it on his social media platforms.
Yeah.
But with that, we want to wrap up the program. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much, Jen.
We appreciate the time.
Good to meet you guys. I finally met someone I used to watch on TV for years.
We have been speaking with Brian Sakwa. He's a digital journalist, a moderator, a podcaster, as well as a voice-over artist in the content creation space. And then again, we do hope from this discussion you are better positioned to, you know, get started in this journey if you were planning to do so. For now, thank you so much for being with us. This has been Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jen Wamboy. See you tomorrow morning.
reggae nice and it make ya. No matter what you news can know when no safer. So me have you hold me head high. Rise me people to the sky.
Hey, Mr. DJ, play that one again. Well, this a reggae music where the people them depend on. From now till the morning vibes and all go end. When you say I'm for you,
yeah. Over to me, my face now grown a tree.
Champion, me a the champion. Champion, me a the champion.
Bounce, hop, skip your enemy there. Swing your one from left to right, me know the saga mad then.
Ukupenda au
Please don't waste my time, okay?
Wewe kama unataka niambie mimi nikupeleke pale ambapo mimi nachukua nguo zangu na wewe uchague zako.
Ni kuwa Laban wanidharau mimi kama mke wako.
You're not a weak CEO. You never have, so don't start now.
Naam, hii ni Mitikasi Leo, makala kutoka BBC yaliyomo. Kuchuma katika tasnia mpya, tunapigia kurunzi jinsi kamari inavyonufaisha chumi za nchi barani Afrika. Baadaye tupo katika mpaka wa Ruzizi ulio kati ya Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo na Rwanda kudadisi hali ya kufanya biashara. Kisha maandamano ya siku 2 mfululizo nchini Ghana kulalama kuhusu hatua ya kuzorota kwa uchumi. Mbashara kutoka Nairobi, Kenya, twende kazi. Masalam na karibu katika toleo la leo, makala inaangazia habari za biashara zinazohusu uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Ni Telina Mwashigari. Teknolojia imebadilisha jinsi mchezo wa kamari unavyochezwa mtandaoni ili kuhusisha mifumo